All right, let's see. All right, it says we're live.
We are live.
Yep.
Let's see. Let me join it. Let's see. It just says waiting for Harmless Rebel on my thing. We'll see. I'm gonna join it. Yeah, there. We are live.
Okay, so is it showing on your Facebook?
No, it's on my YouTube.
I mean, you know what I meant. You know what I meant.
Yeah, I know what you
meant. All right. So you want to give it a second, see if anybody pops on, or just kind of jump in?
We can give it a minute. I mean, I'm sure there will be some people.
There we go.
What do you want to start with?
Hey, what's up, Mick? I don't know. Where do you want to start? You want to just kind of get into what got us collecting and go that route, or
how about we start with the hello? How you doing?
Go ahead.
You know, the common courtesy. You know,
got the professional filming there.
Right. No, we what they don't see is we've been talking for like 10 minutes.
Yeah.
But no, things been. How have you been? I've been doing well. This lockdown's been crazy. I've been trying to get a lot of stuff done, but it seems like I've had so many other things pop up and haven't been able to really focus on what I want to get done, which is my working on my country stuff, trying to get that cataloged. I haven't been able to listen to music. Obviously, we've had a month to do it. So, yeah. I mean, what about you?
I'm just working. I'm just working from home now, so it hasn't changed that much as far as my daily schedule, other than the fact that I'm not making an hour and a half drive each way every day. So the downside is it's screwing up my sleep schedule. I'm barely sleeping now. So
no, that stinks.
Up till 2-3 in the morning sometimes. And then, it just throws all that off. So other than that, though, it's been pretty much the same for me. We have gotten a lot of projects done here around the house, but a lot of it is, I get off work and I just don't want to go and do any projects. It's like a normal work day for me. So,
right.
But we'll talk about your streams. You've been
with us, right?
You've been streaming a couple times a week now.
Is that Mick? Yeah. So here's the problem, and of course I'm glad I got it pulled up on my laptop. I can see him, and can you see him on your computer? Can you see who's in the chat or in the room?
I can just see anybody that comments.
Okay, good.
But it says we got 8 people in right now, so.
Oh, okay. Well, good. Yeah.
So you want to talk about your streams real quick, since that's what you're kind of doing right now?
What's that, bud?
You want to talk about your live stream, since that's what you're kind of doing right now?
Oh, yeah. I mean, that's basically what it's come down to. The work has kind of come to a grinding halt. Tara is essential, so she's working, my wife. But I'm pretty much with my photography and with my small business, which is a youth sports and high school sports photography. It's all.
What's up, Mitch?
So yeah, pretty much not doing much of anything at this point, but I am doing our Saturday night Facebook Live shows, which a lot of you guys you've tuned in to a handful of them, and I'm sure there'll be a handful of other guys stopping in here saying hello. Farley even tuned in last night, which was kind of cool. So. Yeah, it's been going well. We play those shows on Saturday night, and we have virtual tip jar, and people have actually been helping out. You've helped out, which we're very gracious for any of that. People leave requests during the week, and I try and learn those and play them on Saturday night. It's a fun time. Trying to get through, just trying to break up the monotony of sitting around.
Hey, what's up, Brandon? What's up, Mitch? How you guys doing?
Oh, Brandon and Mitch. Hey, guys.
So what? Let's just kind of jump in. So what got you started on collecting?
Well, I mean, kind of seriously collecting again. Gosh, it's probably been 6 or 8 years ago when I got real serious back into it. I never really stopped. I mean, I always would buy vinyl, even from the time I was 13, 14 years old, when most people were buying CDs, and I was even actively still buying CDs. CDs were expensive, man. You're 15, 16 years old and have your first job, and you're faced with spending $20 on a new release CD, or you can spend $1 on that. A lot of times it was sometimes even less than that, less than $1. I could walk away with like 2 or 3 records for $1 at my local record store, just digging through the back. So I did that all throughout the late 80s and early 90s. And then when I got involved with my own music, obviously that all kind of changed, and of course the stuff that I was really into wasn't being pressed on vinyl, so I wasn't getting a lot of that. but I never really stopped. It just pretty much, this whole vinyl resurgence has been great because you've been able to find a lot of things that we never thought was available. Everybody just had them. They were just tucked away in a closet or a storage area somewhere,
Yeah.
So it's been the good and bad is they're available, but they're freaking expensive, right?
Yeah, the bad thing is I used to be able to find stuff for 25 cents at Goodwill that'll cost me $40 at a record store now for the same thing. So,
right.
But,
well, now some Goodwills are thinking they're damn record stores too. I was in before this whole lockdown started. I was in a Goodwill here locally, and they had a stack of records. And one just off the top of my head was a Kiss Alive, and they were asking $20 for it. And I'm like, what, dude? They don't even get $20 in record stores for these things. And
at least it was a Kiss Alive. I've seen them put ABBA and stuff like that for $20-$30 or Barry Manilow. So
crazy.
Yeah, there's one Goodwill here that's like that, and then there's another Goodwill that puts everything out for 70 cents or 75 cents, whatever it is. So
yeah,
but I don't know, those days of finding stuff at Goodwill, I haven't had one in. I think the last good record I found in Goodwill was about a year ago, and it was a Status Quo album. Whereas 2 or 3 years before that,
but
a few years before that, I was finding Black Sabbath and Metallica, like legit stuff in Goodwill. Yeah. And those days are. I can't even find good CDs in Goodwill anymore, let alone records.
Yeah, the CDs are. I mean, I'll find a few here and there. Cassettes, I've been kind of getting lucky lately. That's really been my only good scores have been cassettes. People dropping off cassette collections. And if it weren't for me being a big-time country guy, I know you love your 90s country and classic country as well. We find value and we see value in things that a lot of other collectors probably wouldn't. So, we were like, oh, man, look at this great, they had a bunch of – but what was that? We had a bunch of Merle Haggard or a bunch of Marty Robbins or, Roger Miller, which we were like, oh, man, this is great for 25 cents. But a lot of people look at it as junk.
That's the good thing about country is I find a lot of really good country that would be $30, $40 on eBay, and I'll find it in stores around here for $4 or $5,
Yeah.
They just don't know what it is. So
which is
I
crazy.
off the cassette guy, though.
I would think being in the South, there would be more country fans.
Well, I mean, you saw the record stores here. There's not a huge country selection around here, so
right.
Either they never bought it or they're holding on to it because I find some really good stuff around here. Well, it's been a while, but a few years ago, like I was finding the David Allan Coes, I was finding what's some other like the old Waylon stuff all the time, and now I never see it now. So
no, that stuff is getting impossible to find.
Yeah,
even that. The classic Willie Nelson stuff, the phases and stages, the Shotgun Willie, those are impossible to find.
Yeah.
And
metal is finding metal is, most of my collection is metal, but man, that stuff is impossible. Every once in a while, I luck into a collection somewhere, but it's pretty rare.
I think it's no matter where you go. Luckily, Brandon, who's on here. Hey, Brandon, how are you, buddy? Brandon actually gave me a heads up at one of his shops. I think it was a year or two ago. A metal collection had came in. It was actually 2 different metal collections that they had bought, and he was just friends with them. And we were able to actually go through the stuff before it was put out. But man, you're right. That stuff is getting so hard to find, and if you're not there, the day, if not the minute it's put out, you're out of luck.
Well, I think metalheads is the one group where we never stopped collecting music. Like right. I don't have any. I have a couple. I don't have many metalhead friends though that got rid of all of their stuff.
No.
I was stupid and I did. I got rid of all my CDs. I was a technology guy. That's what I went to school for. My degrees are in software engineering. I was all about music. I uploaded all my stuff to my computer in high res and then sold all my CDs. And then 3 or 4 years later, I was like, what the fuck did I do?
I did the same thing. I thought, man, this is great. I don't need any of these. And we're not talking about regular $12 or $15 CDs. I mean, the majority of them were, but I was collecting, you know, the European imports and things like that.
Well, I lived in Japan for 9 years, so I had a bunch of Japanese pressings. I had box sets, and I sold all that stuff for.
Jeez.
I mean, I sold it to Zia in Phoenix and for almost nothing because they only give you. I think they gave me like $10 a piece for some of the Japanese stuff, but that's like my first record that I bought recently. I say within the last 20 years. The first one that I bought was by accident. I was trying to get all of the older White Zombie stuff on CD, like their early stuff before they got signed when they were a noise rock band. And I got I ordered Make Them Die Slowly, which came out before Devil's Music. And I thought I was buying the Caroline CD, and I got the album in the mail. And that was kind of what got me looking at vinyl again. But before we moved here, I was like, well, I'm not going to end up buying a record player. So I sold it to Zia for like $10. It's like a $60 or $70 record, you know? And it was sealed. It was a sealed record.
Was that a Caroline solo, or was that the Caroline Plan 9? You know, they actually did a lot of stuff with Plan 9.
No, I think it was just Caroline. I could be wrong. I think it was just Caroline, though.
Okay.
And now I've got the box set that's got all that stuff, all their early releases on vinyl, which that's one of my favorite box sets. But that's what got me looking at vinyl again. You know, and then it was 2012 or 13, I guess, when I started. I went to my dad's house. We went on vacation. I was like, hey, let me get the record player because I knew he had it in the attic. And that's when I got. I mean, most of my stereo, my Pioneer deck, and the EQ, all that stuff. That's the stuff that I listened to when I was a kid.
Yeah, when I was over there, it's all the original vintage stuff.
Yeah. That deck's $1,000 deck when it came out, you know, or the receiver. And I was looking to buy a Marantz with the same specs as that. You're looking at like $2,000.
Oh yeah.
And so I had it recapped, and it's been amazing. So. And then I finally upgraded the record player, but I've still got the one that I used back in 82, 83 when I first got into music. And for me back then, though, it was cassettes. You know, I had records back then, but we didn't have a lot of money. So my dad would buy, you know, a big old sleeve of like 30 cassettes, and we would just borrow stuff from friends, and we would dub everything. Yeah. And when I got into high school, my parents had split up well beyond this, but when I lived with my mom, we were broke. So we found out that the Warehouse would let you remember, did you guys have the Warehouse in St. Louis?
No, I mean, we may have, but it wasn't one around me.
Okay. It's just a music store, but it was called the Warehouse, and there were a bunch of them in Phoenix. Well, we found out that they would let you return your cassette twice, and then the third one you had to keep. So we would go to the store, and, you know, cassettes were, you know, $6-7 in the late 80s, early 90s, if that, you know, maybe $5 or $6. So we would go and record a couple, or we would go and buy a couple, and then we would record them, return that, buy another one, record it, and then the one we really wanted to have on cassette, that would be the third one that we had to keep. We did it for years, and the Warehouse knew it, and they never said anything. It was the same guys that worked there, but that was their policy. You could return too. So we would they would say, is there something wrong with it? We'd just say, no, we just don't like it. And they would let us return it. So I probably had 200, 300 cassettes, and only 25% of them were actual
original.
So
yeah, I know, man. That's crazy.
And I didn't really get into CDs until I went in the military, which was 96, because I just didn't have money for CDs until then. You know, CDs, like you said, off base, if you were to go to Best Buy, they were $17, $18, $19.
Yeah.
Most of the CDs that I had before that, I would go to Zia, which Zia was, and those are all over the Southwest. Zias are amazing because everything was used, and it was really good selection. It wasn't like a Kmart selection. It was like legit, like you could get death metal and thrash and, you know, all that.
Oh, wow. Well, luckily, you know, my mom and dad had, they got into CDs early. When I say early, I'm talking maybe 86. Probably we had, if I can remember, it was around 86. We had our CD player, you know, and I remember them having George Strait and If You Ain't Lovin', You Ain't Livin'. So that would have been 86, 87. We had Dwight Yoakam, the Guitarist Cadillac. So that would have been 86. I distinctly remember the first CD that I actually got would have been Bon Jovi, Slippery When Wet. When was that? Like 85, 86? So
I think it was before that. Was that like 84?
was it 84?
You may be right. Maybe it was
85?
86. I don't remember.
Maybe it was 80. Either way, that was the first one that was my own personal copy that I had. But yeah, I got into CDs, but you was still heavily into cassettes at the time. And I don't think I really started buying my own CDs until I had my second vehicle. So I got my first vehicle in 1990, which had a cassette deck in it.
Yeah.
And then I upgraded. It would have probably been 1994 when I really started buying CDs. And of course, how many times have we, I mean, the music industry is just, it's like printing money, on all these great acts. How many times I know how many times I've done it. How many times have you done it? How many times have all the guys watching here bought stuff on all these different formats, as well as multiple copies? It's crazy.
Well, and before the CD burners, so I got to Japan in 97, and I think I bought my first car in Japan in 98. And in Japan, you could get, they didn't have CD cassette decks anymore. They had CD MD players. Okay. So, and this is before you could burn CDs. So I would borrow stuff from friends and burn it to MD, and then put it in the mini disc player in the car. Because MD never caught on here, but they were huge in Japan.
Huge in Japan, yeah.
And I love those things. Hey, what's up? Vinyl Guru's in the house. Yeah, I am from Arizona.
Vinyl Guru. Ooh, Vinyl Guru.
Yeah. Yeah, I was born in Tucson, but I grew up in Phoenix for the most part. And then I lived in Louisiana, a couple other places throughout my childhood. But for the most part, I grew up in Phoenix. So Zia was my home. I went to Zia did the midnight releases for new metal albums, or for new albums in general. So I remember going for Pantera, Metallica, Alice in Chains.
They only did it for the big ones. I think it was Pantera, Metallica, Skid Row.
Yeah, I went to the Alice in Chains, the Tripod release party. Mm-hmm. And those were always cool because I always gave you pretty cool swag back then. You get posters, and I was telling somebody I bought. I don't remember which one it was. It was Tripod. I bought Tripod, the Alice in Chains, the bundle. It was the record, the cassette, and the CD, and a T-shirt for like $35. Obviously this is 93, 94, and that was the only way you could get the shirt. So I ended up buying it and then selling the record to a friend of mine for like $5 or $6, and then the CD or the cassette to a friend of mine for nothing.
What's that thing worth?
Oh yeah, it's like $250, $300 now.
So this lockdown, we've all obviously been listening to music. We've had plenty of time. You're working from home. I'm working from home, so to speak, trying to get work done. What have you been listening to?
It's a pretty good mix. I showed a lot of it in the stream the other day, but just some stuff I've been listening to the last few days. Actually, today I listened to this a couple times. It's can you see that?
Oh yeah.
Thin Lizzy, like God, this is going to be annoying.
You move it one way, it goes the other way.
Yeah,
that's nice.
I got this one on one of the message boards online for like $25, and
nice. An original Japanese.
It's the original Japanese from, when was this? Yeah, it doesn't even say the year on here. I think it was early 80s when this one came out.
Yeah, that came out after Live and Dangerous, right? Yeah.
Yeah. This was like
much later.
2 or 3 albums later. Let's see. I've been listening to that a lot. So I forgot how much I hate this album, and I still can't believe these guys are in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. I'm sure we're going to get some comments about this.
Uh-oh.
You ready for it?
I'm ready. You know what? You're gonna get ready. No way, really?
This album is so bad.
You're gonna get hate from me too. Now,
there's like 4 great songs on here, and the rest of it's filler.
You're right. and let's be, as long as we're being honest, Use Your Illusion 1 isn't that much better. It might have 6 great songs on it. So if they had taken those 6 great songs and these 4 great songs and put them on one album, but if was a 5th, we'd both be drunk, right?
It just kills me. So I mean, they're so famous based on their debut, which their debut album is one of the best hard rock albums of all time. I love it. You know, every song on there is amazing. You can't say that about anything else that they ever released, though. You know, so I don't know.
Yeah.
When you see that bands like Iron Maiden and Alice in Chains and all these bands that had multiple platinum amazing albums aren't in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, and you know,
we there you are. You're back.
Okay, yeah, it flickered a little bit.
Yeah, that's okay. So yeah, I'm trying to think. So I'm gonna probably, you may have made a few people mad with that. I'm sure I'm gonna make a few people mad with a couple of the things I show, because I normally listen to a ton of heavy stuff when I'm down here working and I've got my work mode on, and I'm just hammering away editing or whatever. It's usually the best work music for me is the heavier the better.
Yeah.
Well, I'm kind of more in chill mode now, so I haven't been playing a whole lot of heavy stuff. But I've been a little Chili Peppers, just kind of some different stuff. And to me, this is all you really need for Chili Peppers, at least for my taste. Some greatest hits. I'm not that huge of a Chili Peppers fan, more of a casual fan. This I love.
I haven't bought that yet. I've seen it. I've seen it a couple times. It just
the studio album. It's not the production on it's not that great, but the live album's fantastic. Coverdale singing great. Aldridge is playing. It's fantastic. Funny you mentioned Status Quo earlier.
Yeah,
love this album. I mean, does it get any better? Boogie woogie, rock and roll, good stuff. I'll show one more here. So I love the Western Stars.
I still haven't listened to it.
Oh my God. If you're a Springsteen fan,
I'm not.
This album, now this is the live version. So what he did is they went and they recorded the Western Stars album for a movie, and they just basically played it live. And he, in typical Springsteen fashion, tells the stories behind the songs. And I think the live versions are the stripped down, less polished or produced versions are so much better than the studio versions. But the studio version is killer. I think I love that better. Plus, at the end, they do a brilliant, awesome version of Glenn Campbell's Rhinestone Cowboy. Just
I can't imagine him doing Rhinestone Cowboy.
Phenomenal, dude. Yeah.
Well, we'll go back and forth then. So since you're going to be showing country.
Well, I'll show some dude. Just hit the pause button for 1 second. I'm not just going to be showing country. I got some Billy.
See, I told you that was good though, didn't I?
It's fucking killer, man. It's great. I got into her really, really late, and this is the Target. I'm clicking here, but it's here. This is the Target exclusive glow in the dark. I know in the UK they put out a glow in the dark version, and I was like, fuck, I missed that. So I went and I'll cuss a little bit more on this live stream than I normally do. You'll catch me because normally I cuss a little bit, but my daughter turned me on to that, and I was so late to the game. But I love Billie Eilish and stuff. I think I might even like the album prior to that a little bit better because it's a little bit more that airy, breathy. Ocean Eyes is on that, and but this
she was 12 years old when she wrote that song.
Oh my God!
I was just watching that, man. I couldn't believe she was 12 years old and wrote that song.
Yeah.
So let's see. This is another cool one.
Mitch agrees about the Red Hot Chili Peppers. Mitch said he totally agrees with me on the Red Hot Chili Peppers.
I don't know. So I got into the Red Hot Chili Peppers really early. I think it was Uplift Mojo. So like their second album. There was this movie called Tough Dudes or Bad Dudes back in the 80s about two old men gangsters. And the Red Hot Chili Peppers were playing in the background. Or actually playing live in a club when they like walked into the club and the band was playing live. And that's the first time I heard them. And I borrowed a copy from somebody and recorded it to cassette. Okay. So I got into them real early in their funk days and then just kind of grew with them. Californication's the last album of theirs I had any interest in. The one after that didn't do much for me.
Is that the one that had roller coaster and all that?
No, that's before. That was the one with Dave Navarro.
That may have been the last one I actually.
Californication had Scar Tissue, and that was their really big hit.
Okay,
yeah.
then that was the last one I got into as well.
Yeah. Let's see. Yeah, a couple people commenting on it. So this is one. So I went to Waterloo. Was it? Yeah, Waterloo, the one I took you to by the baseball stadium.
Yes, the one in the parking garage.
Yeah, and I found this for $10. I was blown away because you never see these, and these go for like $30-40 normally. This is YNT. This is the I don't know how well you can see it.
Is it a white label promo?
No, this is the King Biscuit, the radio show.
Oh, okay.
But it's the actual. This isn't like
Is it like the FM broadcast?
Yeah, it's the actual broadcast. So you've got all the commercial. This is 85. So you've got all the like the Levi's commercials that I remember from being a kid, you know. So not only are they phenomenal. I wasn't even a big YNT fan. These guys are. Speaking of live bands, these guys are so good live, and also then having these commercials that just kind of take me back to my childhood actually helped out quite a bit too. But that was a really cool find. So
I wasn't that huge into YNT until Brett, Vinyl Victim, sent me some VCLT a few years back, and it was it Black Cat?
They've got that series like the animal series with the cat on the front, the one with the snake on the front, the one with the tiger. Those are usually considered their best albums, and those are definitely their heaviest. But I think the vocal to me, the reason I think I connected with it immediately was the vocal style lends itself. Whoever the singer is, I'm not that up on it. Is very eerily similar to Sammy Hagar's style of vocal approach to me, and I love Sammy. Yeah, that's why I love those Sammy guys better than I do. I I mean, I like his Montrose, the first couple Montrose albums that he was on. He was only on the first two. Yeah, that's my favorite Sammy Hagar. I like the Van Halen stuff too. I'm not preferential to one or the other. I like them both, but I never listened to the Gary Sharon album, so I can't tell you. So you prefer Sammy with a group then? What's that? You prefer Sammy with a group as opposed to his solo stuff? I've got some. I don't drive. I can't drive 55, or I don't drive 55. I've got the album I've got like 3 of his albums. Yeah. But if I just don't listen to them. They're just kind of in the collection. I do listen to the Montrose debut quite a bit. Yeah. Killer. So. Killer. Yeah. There you go. I'll put that one up so everybody can see there. Yeah, because I want to see it. Hagar sang better than Diamond Dave. There, I said it. Yes. Yes. I will say, I've got that Live in Tokyo box set from a couple years ago. And although the band sounds great, man, Dave sounds terrible. Dude, Hagar at 72 years old sounds better than Dave did in his prime. Yeah. Hagar is a beast. He's an absolute beast. Dave is just a showman. I mean, Dave's an ass. Yeah, well, yeah. He is a freaking clown. But people say the same thing about Eddie Van Halen too, that he's an ass. So, you know what? He might be. He's a joke. He really is. He's So Dave could definitely jump. Well, he could jump. He could, and he could rock a set of tights better than any of us, right? Yeah. So, what else you been listening to? Let's see. I know you'll love this. I didn't even know. Do you know that this was even reissued? Smoke Rings in the Dark. Nope. A beautiful, beautiful album. With Smoke Rings in the Dark, Right Where I Need to Be, a Bourbon Borderline. And it even actually has an unreleased song on there, I think, but this is the deluxe edition. But love Gary Allan, man. As far as that California country sound, awesome. I think you actually talked me into finally getting this. I can't stand that cover, man. I just want to. This hat is so fucking ignorant. I want to punch him in the face every time I look at him with that hat. If he wasn't so big, I would. But I couldn't not have this in the collection because the album is so great, man. Didn't you tour with him? Yeah. 1997, 97 and 98. And I got to tell you, the nicest dude on the planet. The nicest dude on the planet. But that was before he wore these dorky ass hats. How long did you tour with him? We just went out on like a 6-date run with him, just 3 in 96 and 3 in 97, just a Midwest run. And
at one particular show. This will tell you how cool Toby Keith is and how down to earth he is, man. At one of the shows, we were doing our sound check. Of course, Toby had already come in, they'd set up, and they had already done their sound check. And we're out there doing our sound check. Of course, we're set up right in front of all his shit. You know, we got a little bitty, we're squeezed right up on the front of the stage. And my guitar takes a shit during sound check. It's like I can't get anything to work.
Yeah, I think you told me about this. Yeah,
he's standing in the wings. The band's just standing there shooting the shit. We're playing a little club in Cahoots, which is probably, I don't know, 2,500 capacity. So they're just kind of hanging out. It's either hang out in the green room or the hallway that connects the stage to the green room or the dressing room, or hang out on the bus. And they're just hanging in there. They may have been eating or shooting the shit. And his sound guy was running back and forth. And I'm freaking out. I can't get my guitar to work. And Toby's like, what's going on? He's like, oh, dude's having a problem with his guitar. He's got like 6 guitars lined up, and they're all pretty much the same. Hands his guitar tech one of his guitars, and he's like, here you go. Use this. And he's like, treat it like it's yours, though. And
so did you keep it?
Yeah, no, he goes, treat it like it's yours. And then he goes, better yet, I've seen how you treat your shit. Treat it like it's mine. So I got to use Toby Keith's guitar that night. And how cool is that, you know? He's
here
really
you go. Rachel's asking, so what do you think of Sturgill Simpson? We've had so many comments. Billy and I have talked about this guy so much in the last 4 or 5 years. It's insane.
So Rachel, thank you for joining us. And because I was kind of concerned that people would be like, man, they're talking about country and they're going to talk about metal. Yeah. I mean, I don't think there's any better representative than country and metal than Steve and I, you know. I think we balance it very well, I think. But as far as Sturgill Simpson, Rachel, I think if you had asked me 2 years ago, I would have said the sunset in Sturgill Simpson's ass. I thought he was the cat's meow, the king of the hill, the top of the mountain. Now, honestly, I think he has been toppled a little bit by guys like Tyler Childers and Cody Jinks. I still love Sturgill Simpson. I think he's a little bit, and Steve, you and I have talked about this before. I believe he buys in a little bit too much to his hype here lately. I think he's a little bit full of himself. But I'm waiting for Sturgill to make another country record. How about you, Steve?
I don't think it's happening. I mean, so we've talked about this. I just saw him right before this quarantine, like a couple weeks before. My daughter and I went and saw him and what's his name? Who did I go see him with?
Tyler
Childers. There we go. And we walked out on Sturgill Simpson. We only made it an hour into the show. So he took all of his country songs and turned them into psych songs. He's doing this fuzz, and I like it. Don't get me wrong. His new album is more of a stoner fuzz sounding with a country vocal, and I like it.
On its own, it's a great album. It really is.
Yep.
Yeah.
But then he took all of his country songs and turned them into fuzzy. There's no steel guitar. There's synths instead. And like I said, we made it an hour into his set, and we left because I just wasn't feeling it. So we'll see what happens. But here, I like this.
But Tyler, on the flip side of that, Tyler was so amazing.
Tyler was amazing. It's one of the best country shows I've been to. He was phenomenal. So, you know, and I don't feel bad that I spent the money on the tickets because, like I said, Tyler was amazing. It was still a good show. It just sucked. I'm laughing at Vinyl Guru's comments here. So here's the funny thing. Can you imagine a country metal genre?
Yeah.
Oh my God, what is his name? Oh, it's gonna drive me crazy.
Well, David Allan Coe did it with the Abbott Brothers.
Ron Keel does the Metal Cowboy records. Have you heard this stuff?
No.
It's him. He's basically taken some of his metal and hard rock songs and recorded them as acoustic country songs.
Okay.
And so I saw him at the Kiss Expo a couple years ago, and on the back of his arms in big lettering, he's got country cowboy tattooed on his arms. He wears a country cowboy shirt and hat and stuff, and he's done some albums that are a combo of.
Well,
taking...
I it's crazy you mentioned that. I've seen something in the last few years where Eerie Von, from Danzig, has been doing some. I guess it's their punkish metal type stuff, but with a acoustic, with a country flair to it.
Yeah.
And it's not. I don't hate it. Let's put it that way.
Yeah.
I was pretty outspoken on my Hank 3 stuff. There we go. Hank 3 is probably the closest thing. I was very outspoken on my Hank 3. I love Hank 3. His country stuff, when you get to the roots of it, is brilliant. I don't think
he sounds like his grandfather and looks just like his grandfather.
I don't think anybody does it any better. It's so damn good. But when he gets into his what do they even call it? It's like punk
Ass Jack.
Yeah, where it's like punk meets metal meets rockabilly. I don't get it. It doesn't really.
But the funny thing with him is he was releasing his country albums and playing in Superjoint Ritual at the same time with Phil Anselmo. So
I seen him one time. He was playing. I think it was 3 different shows.
Yeah.
And it's like, dude, it literally drains you.
Yeah.
And I mean, I play 4-hour shows all the time.
Yeah.
He was 4.5 hours in and just starting the 3rd set.
Yeah, he does. He was doing, he would start off with his country and then roll into psychobilly and then roll into thrash. From his final band was his metal and thrash band.
We finally just walked out, Of course, he's playing in a strip club, like right next to strip club's next door. So he's playing like a little 400-seat place, and the guys that are in there are all stinky and hadn't put on deodorant in like a month. And it's like, dude, I can't stand next to you anymore, man. I gotta get out of here.
Yeah. I've been to some shows like that. Actually, one of my favorite shows. Oh, it was a long one like that. It was, I don't know have you ever heard of Reverend Horton Heat?
Yes.
He's a psychobilly guy. So we went to his 21st or 25th anniversary show, and he did 3 songs from every one of his albums. And he was the 3rd band. So I think it ended up being 5.5, 6 hours total, that show. And 4.5 or 4 hours of it was just him playing. And when I say he did songs from every album, he did Christmas songs from his Christmas albums, everything. It was an amazing show. And this was Phoenix in June. And it was a little, I'm trying to think of the name of the theater we went to, but it's there's no AC in the building. So there's, 300 or 400 people smashed in there. And I mean, you're just soaking wet with sweat. It was horrible, but it was an amazing show at the same time. So,
let's show some more records. What else? You show a couple more.
All right. So we're
still on what we're recently listening to, right? I mean,
yeah.
Yeah.
So this was earlier today. This is Loudness.
Yeah.
I
see you've been picking up some Japanese things too. Getting on the.
Yes and no. No more than I normally do. I mean, I'm always looking for Japanese stuff, and if I see it for a good price, I grab it.
I know you've always had the Japanese CDs a lot. I just didn't see you show a lot of vinyl. It's awesome. Yeah. There's something special about that Japanese vinyl, man.
I love the Japanese CDs. The vinyl, I've never gotten a Japanese record that was in good condition that didn't sound amazing.
I know.
Just the quality of what they do. And the German pressings too. The German pressings from the 70s and 80s. I've never gotten one that didn't sound good. But this was released in the U.S. This was Shadow of War in Japan. It was released in the U.S. as Lightning Strikes. So if you're into Loudness, you've seen it. Yeah. The difference is the Japanese Shadows of War is not on the U.S. That song is not on the U.S. pressing. Okay. But same album, but this is the Japanese version of it. So
I was gonna say I don't.
And I'm a huge fan of this band.
I'm like, oh, there's a Loudness album I don't have.
Yeah, and like you probably do have it. Well, and their first 4 or 5 were Japan only releases.
Right.
So that's the only way you can get those. But gotcha. So what else you got? I got a few more too. So
always listening to some Waylon. Of course, you sent me the Fat Possum reissue of this. Well, just a great album. Always listening to Waylon. Love Dreaming My Dreams. This is probably my second favorite. I don't know, depending on the day, this could be my favorite.
That's probably my favorite, yeah.
This one or this one. I mean, you can't go wrong with either two. And then I don't know if you have this Do you have the new Shooter?
No.
Just called Shooter.
Yeah, I haven't bought it.
He's one of those guys, kind of like Hank 3, that lost me there for a second. You know, when he did that
Countach?
Countach, the disco.
Yeah, hang on.
I know you love it. Man,
No, I don't love it. I don't.
Okay, I good. One of our friends actually loved that record.
Yeah,
like,
hang on.
What the hell are you smoking, man? That album is.
Yeah, I don't know what I did with it. I have a signed copy of it.
So this album, the new one, is he gets back to country. It's great, really good. So yeah, and then this is where we'll probably lose a whole bunch of viewers, but hate me now. Send the hate mail my way. Taylor Swift, love it. I love this album. I absolutely love this album, and I've been actually, I think Mitch knows that I've been slowly but surely putting together her limited pressings. See, Taylor has been great about putting all of her catalog out for the past years. And if she didn't do it originally, she went back and has reissued them for record store days and things like that on very limited. And when I say 2,500 or 3,500 copies, that's not really limited, let's be honest. But it's limited for a Taylor Swift.
Oh, yeah.
And they're just ridiculous amounts of money. But I've been able to get a couple through trade. Found a couple just through good deals on Discogs, and I actually snagged one at my local record store that I was actually really, really surprised I was able to find there. Somebody just bought it.
There you go, Billy.
I have 2 Taylor Swift albums on vinyl. There you go. By the way, Brandon. Brandon's always got my back, man. Always. I love Taylor.
Brandon's got the Bieber stuff too, though. So.
Yeah, and the Michael Bolton. You know, he's even got I think, Brandon, correct me if I'm wrong, don't you have a Michael Bolton pillow on your couch? I love you, Brandon.
So let's see. This is one I just ran across. I didn't even know that this came out last year, but this is the new Death Angel, Humanicide.
Cool.
And that was I was real late to these guys.
When did that one come out?
This is last year.
That's not a 2019, is it?
Yeah, 2019.
So I missed that one. I was telling you earlier before we went live, I missed a handful of those 2019 metal. I still don't have the Tool because, you know, it came out with that weird CD box, whatever. Did you end up getting the vinyl when they finally have the vinyl out, right?
Nope.
No, you didn't get it, or no, it's not out.
No, it's not out yet.
Oh, I thought for sure it was, man.
No, there's bootlegs. There's already bootlegs out, but they haven't officially released it yet.
So I thought I missed that. So good, I didn't miss that.
Yeah, there you go, Liam. From Taylor Swift to Death Angel. That's how we do it.
That's right. You know, what's crazy is I just got that Japanese copy of the Ultraviolence, and I'm spinning that lately as well. But I don't think that's in my most recent listening stack. No.
Well, what's crazy is they were one of the original Bay Area bands. People don't realize they were like 15 or 16 when they started out, and they were playing with Metallica and Exodus at 15 years old. Those guys were, I mean, it's amazing.
Great stuff. I'll have to check out that their newest one from last year.
Can you hear that thunder in the background?
No.
Oh, okay.
I just thought that was your stomach. Maybe you were hungry.
Yeah. So let's see what else.
We're ready for some more Five Guys, dude. It's about that time.
Yeah, here's another one from last year that I listened to this. I bought this when it came out. I just listened to it for the first time like 3 days ago.
Okay.
The new Queensryche.
Yep.
It's good, man. I didn't think they were going to be that good once Tate left the band, but I really dig this stuff.
Yeah, I was just going to ask if Jeff Tate was still on that one, but no.
No, he hasn't been on the last two. He was doing Jeff Tate's Queensryche. I don't know if he still is or not, but it's really good. It's really good. Queensryche has turned into one of those bands I have to be in the mood for, though. When I spun,
it's always been that way for me, though.
When I spun this the first time a couple weeks ago, I just wasn't feeling it, and then I listened to it again and I loved it. So
yeah. I mean, they're so technical though, and so melodic that if that's what you're into, like you said, if you're in one of those moods, you get it. You know what you're going to get when you put on a Queensryche record.
Yeah,
really do. I'll show a couple Japanese. I've been spinning a few Japanese things lately.
Hang on, I got to comment on Brandon. I'm pretty jealous, Brandon. So I don't know if you saw my video about this. I was supposed to see Overkill a couple weeks ago.
Oh yeah.
And I was literally on my way to the show when we got a message from my daughter's school that they had been exposed to coronavirus at school. Yeah, this is before all the shutdowns and all that stuff. So I was literally on my way there and decided not to go because I didn't know if I was exposed to my daughter, any of that good stuff. I wanted to see Overkill for the last, 15, 20 years. And I've never been able to. And I had tickets in hand. I was on my way there and couldn't go. So,
Brandon, is that when you got all your Overkill stuff signed? Did you see that video? Steve,
yeah.
Crazy that he was able to get all that stuff signed. I think he got everything in his damn collection signed.
Yeah, that's the nice thing about a lot of these bands playing smaller venues now. Yeah, Brandon's saying that was the last time. Yeah, so I remember. So I've seen Raven twice. The first time I saw them, they were opening for a bigger band back in the '80s, or in the early '90s, and you couldn't get anywhere near them. And then I saw them like 2 years ago, and I was like 3 feet from the stage, and got to hang out with them for a half hour after the show was over. So, I mean, the bad thing is, they're not doing big shows like they used to back in the day. The good thing is you get to meet these guys and hang out with them and stuff. So
right. And then I'll show another Twisted Sister. Love Is for Suckers. One of my.
Did you listen to the MoFi yet?
No, the MoFi. Actually, I was gonna pick that up on Friday night. It came in, and I actually got a copy for myself and for Brandon. It came in on Friday. I was supposed to pick it up and meet Colin, my local Trusty Chords, local record store. I was supposed to meet Colin. We were going to do a curbside pickup.
Yeah.
I was actually going to grab both of those, but time got away from me. So I'm going to pick it up on Wednesday. So Brandon, you got that coming. And no, but yeah, MoFi, what we're talking about, in case you guys are, what do you mean MoFi? MoFi did pressing of Stay Hungry. It's a limited pressing of what, like 2,500 or 3,500?
2,000. Yeah, it's 2,000, 2,500. It's on pink vinyl, right?
Yes, I think so. Mitch would know. Mitch would actually clued me in on that. No, maybe you did.
We were talking about it when one of the record stores here, Comeback Vinyl, has a huge MoFi selection. And they also do pre-order online. So I did the online pre-order for it.
That's right. Did you get yours yet? Did yours show up yet?
No, they haven't emailed. They usually email you once it comes in, and you just go and pick it up. So that's what I'm waiting for.
So I'll be able to get mine Wednesday. I can't wait to hear it. So yeah, Brandon, if you want to maybe meet on Wednesday when I pick it up, let me know. We'll do the old toss it out the window.
Yeah, Mona Guru's saying that she thinks they did 3,000 of them. So.
3,000 of them.
Yeah, and Mick is agreeing. So this is the last one that I've been spinning lately, other than some CDs and stuff. But and we talked about this a little bit ago. But I got So Far So Good So What.
Love it.
And this is a European pressing. It's a Dutch, printed in Holland. But it's funny. So. It was Billy that led me down this road on this one. He called me like not even a year ago, maybe 6 months ago, to ask about a Megadeth that he was going to buy.
Well, it might have been somewhere between 6 months and a year ago. Yeah.
Yeah. And he asked me about what pressings I had, and I was flipping through, and I was sure I had all of their albums that were available on vinyl. And I couldn't find this one. And it turned out I didn't have a copy of this on vinyl at all. So, I rectified that a couple weeks later. I ended up buying one of the recent represses. And about a week after I bought that, I ran across this original pressing at Sunset Waterloo, actually. So
it looks like a great one. It's funny you showed Megadeth, because I've been spinning a little.
Oh, there you go.
Little Megadeth. So this is I put this up against the most recent Sound of Vinyl. They just came out with those colored versions.
Yeah.
Last year. So that was they had like a purple version of that. They have like a blue version of Peace Cells. And I thought those were great sounding pressings. However, after listening to the Japanese pressing of that, I'm like, this is so much better. It breathes a lot more. The lows are sustained here and the highs and everything in between. Whereas that newest issue, as well as it's the same pressing as the Capitol, the Vault reissues that they
yeah.
While those still sound great, if you don't have anything to compare them against, I think they're a little bit too compressed. These that Japanese pressing, as well as the if you have an original, like your original European pressing, or even an original club pressing from the U.S.
Yeah,
they sound much better, because my club pressing of Rust in Peace is probably the best sound pressing I have of that record.
Yeah, Mitch just said that he just got the Electric Warrior. So I looked at I saw that one that was available for pre-order with the Twisted Sister at my local store. I don't know what it is. That album, I just think there's like 3 or 4 songs I really like on it, and then the rest of it I wasn't a fan of.
So I do Electric Warrior, and Mitch, you can weigh in on this and see if I want your opinion. Hell, all you guys can weigh in on this. Electric Warrior or the Slider, which for you? Because that's probably most people's top 2 when it comes to T-Rex.
I'm trying to think. My favorite T-Rex is the one with it's like a little guy. I want to say he's like a little jousting guy on the cover.
I don't think I'm a Slider guy. I love the Slider. I love Electric Warrior too, but yeah, I'd say Slider's probably a little bit.
I've just never been. I like the Bolin stuff, and I like him. I think Warrior, he was kind of going a little more pop for me. I still like it. It's probably my least favorite of their albums, though.
Wow, is it just because you're so over Bang a Gong?
Oh, 100% over that. If I never heard that song again in my life,
right,
I would be okay with that. One of those songs that, and I always thought that was the weakest song on the album anyway. It's the same thing with Lynyrd Skynyrd. Sweet Home Alabama is probably the worst song that they ever recorded. And that's the most popular song. If you go back and listen to their albums, man, they were so good. They were such amazing musicians. I mean, listen to Freebird and compare. Sweet Home Alabama is so bad. And that's their biggest.
You got some toothless rednecks out there with them's fighting words right there. Buddy.
Yeah, they can say what they want, whatever. I don't care if I ever hear it again.
We've jabbered on about just what we've been spinning here lately. Speaking of Skynyrd, though, I have to show these before we move on to our top metal and country of 19 and 20. I want to show these. I've been getting the Analog Productions reissues.
I saw those, yeah. How are they?
Oh, my God. These things are so amazing. Shout out to Mitch Wood for cluing me in on these, because if they were put out by Mobile Fidelity, obviously I have them already, but these weren't. And he's like, those were put out on like one of these. These may both be 45 RPM. I'm not 100% sure, but the Analog Productions stuff that they're doing is just mind-blowing.
How is it compared to the MoFis from a couple years ago?
Oh my God! Not only compare to, I think at times they surpass what MoFi did. They're great.
Yeah, I missed out. I'm mad that. I had the Allman Brothers records in my hand when they came out on MoFi, and I didn't buy them. I ended up buying other stuff, and now you can't find them anywhere.
You can't find them now.
Lynyrd Skynyrd. Yeah, I that's the bad thing about MoFi. If you don't grab that stuff right when it comes out, a lot of
this one, Give Me Back My Bullets, is you got to find that secondary market now. You can't get that original. You can still get Nothing Fancy, but these weren't cheap even direct. I think they were about $50.
No, that's about right. All the Analog Production stuff is. So that same store, I don't know if you noticed it, they sell all the Analog Production stuff too.
Yeah,
they have a MoFi section and Analog Production section.
I actually sent Brandon and Mitch a photo of the 3 tiers of audio file pressings that they had. It was just mind blowing how much great stuff they had there.
Yeah, and for Brandon and Mitch,
jazz
if you go to their website and you pre-order through this store here in Atlanta, you get a 20% discount. So, like the 2 MoFis that we were just talking about, that I pre-ordered.
Twisted Sister and Electric Warrior.
Yeah, I didn't do Electric Warrior. I ordered something else. I can't remember what it was off the top of my head. Maybe it was a Curtis. Yeah, I think it was a Curtis Mayfield. Maybe.
Okay.
Regardless, they don't jack up the price, so it's still $39 or $35, whatever it is, and then they take 20% off if you pre-order it. So, yeah, and that's not even. It doesn't matter where in the country you are.
Well, and they'll ship to you.
Yeah, they'll ship them to you. So you have the option of in-store pickup, or they'll ship it to you.
What's the name of the place so everybody can?
Yeah, it's Comeback Vinyl.
Comeback Vinyl.
Yeah, let me see. I bet I can put a link up here real quick. But
so while you're doing that, we were going to discuss our kind of some of our top country and metal releases from 2019 as well as 2020. So you want to jump into that?
Yeah, let's do oh man, now I'm messing things up. Yeah, I'll put
they can look it up. Comeback Vinyl.
Yeah, it's just Comeback Vinyl. Yeah, it's the only one on there. So let's do what was your favorite country album last year?
Well, I actually, in typical Billy Hurst fashion, I can't just pick one.
You pulled 7?
I pulled 4, but actually, no, I didn't. I pulled 3 because this one is anyway.
So I'm gonna guess. Hey, oh, okay, you already get. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I love this album.
Yeah,
I love Miranda Lambert. Not only do I love the cover, she's so smoking hot, but she can sing her ass off. I love Miranda Lambert. This is a very smart, introspective, brilliant album. I mean, she recently going through her divorce. This is her second album since her and Blake split. But the album
married again now.
What's that?
She's married again now, isn't she?
Yeah, married to I don't know, somebody, but not me. But The Weight of My Wings. Did you get her last album, the 3 LP? Oh man, so good. Again, a 3 LP album. Probably some things on there that could have been left off, but the stuff that's killer is killer. My second favorite album of last year. And I know you probably agree as well. Luke, I'm doing the same fucking thing. Move it one way and she goes the other way.
Yeah.
His first album, I would have thought that there would be no way he could top his first album. This One's For You, because I love that album. I think it had 17 tracks on it, and I'll bet 13 of them were killer. I think he had 6 number 1s off of that album, if I'm not mistaken. This album is phenomenal. Of course, it didn't come out until like December 6th of last year.
Yeah, so I kind of consider that this year.
Dude, to make it that high on my list last year and to have just came out the last month of the year is saying something. I think it's no surprise, and we'll both agree. My album of the year, my country album of the year, Tyler Childers, Country Squire. While I think you and I are in complete agreement that it's not the album that the previous album or previous effort was, Purgatory. This is a killer album. Of course, produced by Sturgill Simpson.
Yeah, I almost didn't pull it out just because I know.
You knew I was going to talk about it.
I got to look. I got stuff all mixed up now. But yeah, that was definitely the favorite for me last year. So
yeah, absolutely.
And I'm trying to think. I don't even think there was anything that was a close second last year. And I'm trying to think. I can't remember if the Whiskey Myers came out last year or the first part of this year.
The Whiskey Myers came out last year, and that one is one that I just didn't get yet. But I'm very late to the game on the Whiskey Myers stuff. But holy shit, it's very reminiscent of like a Leonard Skinner or a Marshall Tucker.
Yeah, no, they've got some stuff that's straight rock. They've got some stuff or straight country rock. They've got straight country and some blues stuff in there. So that's one of the things I like about them is the whole album isn't one thing. It's they kind of go through the different sounds. So what about best metal last year?
Best metal last year. So I was
or hard rock.
Hard rock, heavy metal. Exactly. That's where I was going to go. I'm going to throw a curveball here and show this Duff McKagan.
Oh wow.
Record. Dude, I love this record. I don't know if any of you guys have heard it. If you've heard it, of course, produced by Shooter Jennings. This is a kind of a record where Duff opens up. It's kind of Dylan sounding at times.
Is it rock?
It's country rock.
Okay.
It's rock first, but it's got a little country undertones to it. But yeah, really, really, really good stuff. Just a lot of vulnerable stuff in his songwriting. Billy, I just can't pick one Hurst. You know what? He ought to be happy that I am that way, because that's why I have so many friends. If I had to pick one of you guys would probably just be left out in the cold, man. I just can't pick one.
Hey, Mitch is making jokes. We're gonna do one of these with Mitch, and then
Mitch, Brandon.
How funny it is then.
we've got some plans. So we talked about Sammy.
I didn't even know he had an album come out.
Killer album. Of course, it's the concept album, talking about greed, money, power, politics. Super stuff. And of course, man, is there a better bass player and harmonizer than Michael Anthony on the freaking planet? I mean,
Robert Trujillo.
Golly. Huh?
Robert Trujillo,
but he's not a harmonizer though. He's a bass player. He's a phenomenal bass player, but I'm just talking straight ahead, bare bones, do it like it's supposed to be done, and sing the best harmony on the planet.
Yeah.
Michael Anthony is the man. And then of course Jason Bonham, and I think Vic's on this record, isn't he? This isn't or is this Satriani?
I don't know.
No, it's Vic. Vic played on this one. So Satriani's on the chicken foot stuff, right?
Which I don't like the chicken foot stuff.
You sent this to me. Sacred Reich.
That's great, right?
Dude, this is a smoker, man. For these guys, they didn't make a record in what, 25 years?
So here's the funny thing. Their new guitar player was not born when their last album came out.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Their new guitar player is 22. Their last album was 23 years ago. And so he wasn't alive when their last album came out. And their last album was amazing too.
So I haven't heard the newest Testament album.
Well, mine's on the way. I haven't got it yet.
Titans of Creation. Right? Yeah. Haven't heard that, but dude, you'd be hard pressed to tell me that it's any better than this.
Dude, Sacred Reich is in my top 5 all-time thrash bands. Now I'm biased.
When Mitch was over here, I think it was in January. That was the first time I put that on.
Yeah.
You had just sent it to me. And I know he'll attest that I was blown away by how good that was. And then, of course, I couldn't show any top hard rock, heavy metal release from last year without showing this fucking joke. I wasted my money on that thing right there. Holy shit. That thing.
Mine is actually leaning against the wall over there. I haven't even listened to it yet.
It's a joke, people. Don't waste your money. Don't waste your time. It is pathetic.
I was so mad about it.
Sound like crap, but Sebastian can't sing on that record. I don't know that he can sing much anymore anyway, but that thing he had no excuse to not be able to sing. That thing was recorded in like 2001 or 2002.
They said that's a VHS record. That came from a VHS tape.
Yeah, VHS tape was the original source.
Which actually, I mean, VHS is still digital audio, so it should have sounded better than that.
It was just it was terrible, shit in, shit out. I mean, It was just a terrible thing from the get-go. It was a cash grab from the beginning, and I got suckered into it.
You told me about it like 20 minutes too late. I had just bought it, and then you were like, "Don't buy this," because I think he put on his Facebook, right? He put on his Facebook that it wasn't authorized, and it sounds like shit.
Yep.
So yeah.
So what were your metal?
Best metal from last year, hard rock metal, was Fear Inoculum.
Okay. Yeah.
I love Tool. I've been on board with them since Undertow came out. I was I think a junior in high school, maybe a senior when Undertow came out. And one of my buddies in class, I had never heard of Tool. They weren't on the radio. He's like, "Hey, my girlfriend just bought me a copy of this tape. Do you want it?" And he handed it to me. I was like, "I've never heard of them." He's like, it's right in your wheelhouse." So I took it home and played it, and I've been hooked ever since.
Yeah.
And oh yeah, Vinyl Guru sounds cash grabby.
Oh, totally cash grabby. Totally cash grabby.
Oh no, it is. I mean, all this crazy.
Well, the fact that they didn't even release it, I don't know. The fact that they didn't put it out on vinyl that's to me, it's when you want to do a cash grab, like hardcore fans like yourself.
I don't know what's going on with that.
You're going to buy the vinyl as well. Me, I can wait.
I don't know what's going on with that. I know that what's the drummer's name?
Hell if I know.
He's one of the best drummers of all time. I can't think of his name off the top of my head. Anyway, they were in the studio remastering all of their albums for vinyl like 5 years ago. And they had a deal in place, and it was all being remastered. And then something fell through with the record label. They got in some dispute with the record label. So I don't know what's going on with that, but they really need to release these. And they've already said this one will come out in vinyl. They said it would come out this year. So
yeah. Like I said, I thought it was actually just already released, but I'm off base.
And luckily, I pre-ordered it on Amazon because they were initially they wanted like 45, and then Amazon dropped the price to like 35 on Danny Carey. Thank you. I don't know why.
Yes, okay. Well, I'm not even a Tool fan, and I totally was.
Oh, I'll tell you what. There's a video of the song "Fear Inoculum" of him playing it, and they've got the cameras all around him. It's one of the best videos I've ever seen. I tell you what.
No, I'm very familiar with Danny.
I've seen Tool twice, and they sound just as good live as they do. They're not like other bands. They sound almost exactly the same live as they sound on CD, which is hard. If you've done live music, I've done live. It's hard to sound as good live as you do. But when you watch him play, I mean, he's like it's amazing watching him.
Oh yeah. Did you have any like honorable mentions or anything other than that?
Oh man, there were a bunch of them. I don't even have them.
Yeah,
I thought about grabbing 6 like you, but then I was like, let's just keep it to 1.
Talk about your 2020. Go ahead and show your 2020.
I don't have a country for 2020. I don't have any albums.
Yeah,
that I know of.
If we're being honest, I don't either. So I'll just jump in and show this. Aaron Enderline. This is a late 2019 release. This is Faulkner County, produced by Jamie Johnson and Moose Brown. Great. You have got to get this, Steve. This is so up your alley.
I've heard of her.
This is Loretta Lynn reincarnated here. Just a fantastic album. So it came out in late 2019, and I got it. I got it when I got back from spring training. So I'm going to count that as my 2020 release, as well as Marcus King. Okay, so yeah, you have that. I'm going to count this Marcus King El Dorado for 2020, even because this is a 2020 release, even though it's not labeled as technically country, what most people would think is country. It's got its country, it's got its R&B, it's got its soul. Brilliant, absolutely brilliant album.
I don't know what's up with all the bands, all the country bands again wearing polyester suits. Because
if I could wear one, I'd rock it if I could get away with it.
Midland
that Moose Knuckle would be like stellar.
He does it. Sturgill Simpson, when he was live, they were all wearing polyester
nudie suits.
They weren't nudie suits. They were kind of like the janky half-ass version of it. You know, so instead of like crazy rhinestones, it's like 1 or 2 rows.
So it's the Goodwill nudie suit.
Yeah, and then he's got no shirt on underneath it. He just came out like, dude, what the fuck are you doing? You know, it's like I told you, he had the shirts for sale that said "Make art, not friends," and I think that was kind of a slap in the face of the people that were there. Yeah, Vinyl Guru. Yeah, I grew up on Loretta. So for those of you guys that don't know, my grandfather was a honky tonker, and when I say he played in a house band in Louisiana during the Louisiana Hayride era, And my grandfather knew a lot of the big artists from back in the 50s and 60s. So I grew up listening to all that stuff. Either the bass player or the banjo player from his band, I can't remember, was in Hank Williams' band. After Hank Williams died, he joined my grandfather's band. And so when any of the bands were there in Louisiana for the Louisiana Hayride, they would tour around that area for a couple weeks while they were there. Yeah. So my grandfather opened for a good portion of those. And so we grew up, he knew Loretta Lynn. We grew up listening to her stuff and hearing stories about her. And then Hank Williams, I've heard the craziest stories about Hank Williams. He told us a story about Hank Williams coming through. He was doing, he may not have been doing the hayride. He may have just been touring because Hank Williams' wife was from Louisiana. And, or one, I don't know if he was married more than once, but I think she divorced him and then she married somebody else, another famous country singer.
I know he was married to Audrey, which that's Hank Jr.'s mom.
Okay.
I think that may have been his only wife because he died at 26, man.
Yeah. Anyway, my grandfather talked about the first time he met Hank Williams. Hank Williams is obviously the headliner for their show, and it's just a honky tonk, fits a couple hundred people, you know. And my grandfather said that he was so drunk by the time the show started that they actually had to carry him onto the stage, put him in the chair, and then put the mic up to his mouth, and he would hold on to the mic and then sing. And then they had to actually carry him off stage because he was just so blasted. And he was doing other stuff too. He was popping pills and stuff too. It wasn't just alcohol.
And the great thing about those early shows, I don't know, that's the thing that country music and the roots there, your roots of country music. So those groups from the 50s and the 60s, and even into the 70s, those guys, those outlaw. I was hoping you was going to put that up, Vinyl Gurus. We're all sick. Brandon and I joke about it all the time. We have a sickness. There's something going on. It. But talking about the camaraderie those guys had, and I think that's something that the country community had that maybe the rock community didn't have. I'm not saying they didn't, but all those acts, they all not only played on bills together, but they would travel together. They would hang out together. They would live together. They would eat together. They'd stay in the same hotels. They'd ride in the same cars.
Well, I mean, early rock, I mean, that was more a thing of the 50s and into the 60s. And then by the late 60s, they were doing big shows. And by the time rock got big, I mean, that's about the time stadiums got big too.
But even in your 70s, that and with the outlaw movement, your Waylon Jennings, your Johnny Cash, your Johnny Paycheck, David Allan Coe, all those guys, George Jones, they all stayed at each other's houses, man. When they wanted to get away from their wife, they would go over to Waylon's house and have a beer and party or whatever. And they would, when they would go tour, they would it was basically the same thing. It was the nonstop party with these guys, But yeah, we do have a sickness. Are you saying are you not admitting that you have the sickness, Steve?
Me?
Yeah.
Oh no, I 100% do. I'm worse than most.
you're
No, I was saying that my wife absolutely loves it too,
I was waiting for you to go, wow.
Well, that's why I posted it up there,
So our 2020 hard rock and metal. What the hell is that? I'm not even. Is that Haunt?
Yep.
I'm not haven't heard that one.
This is probably the best new band of the last couple of years for me.
So enlighten us or enlighten me.
They're a new wave of traditional metal band. They're definitely that early 80s Thin Lizzy, twin guitars, a little bit of, I mean, it's just all really killer. You got to check them out.
What's they've the done style kind of similar to how's the vocals? Because I'm really, if it's the overkill Tickle Me Elmo vocal,
no. This is new wave. So new wave of traditional metal is basically today's version of new wave of British heavy metal. So
okay,
it's that new wave, that early
higher pitch,
sound,
higher pitch vocal.
Yeah, no, it's straight up metal vocals,
Yeah, cool.
And I love it. They're definitely one of my favorite of the last couple of years. That one, and I've been playing this one too. This is Smolder, Dream Quest Ends.
Okay.
I've been playing this one quite a bit, and this is. Do you subscribe to Metal Hammer?
No.
Is it Metal Hammer?
Metal Hammer, wasn't that a magazine back?
No, what is it? It's going to drive me nuts. It's not Metal Hammer. The guys that do Lock and Horns, where they do the top 10 lists and stuff. Anyway,
I was subscribed to so many different channels here. You're talking about YouTube channel, right?
Yeah. One of the girls that does reviews on that website, though, this is her band.
Oh, okay.
And it's just really good. Again, traditional heavy metal. They're from Canada, and this is their second album. Their first album was last year. I think a lot of people had their last album in their top 5 for last year for metal albums, and this is their new release for this year. So
I felt like such a dummy last year watching everybody's top 10 or top 20 metal countdown for the year, and I only knew like 4 or 5 of them. I was like, "Holy shit, I'm so far behind." But you can get. I think Mitch said it earlier in one of his comments. The metal community, the metal fans go so deep with their stuff. As far as my 2020 stuff, I've talked a bunch about this EP on my channel, Dirty Honey. This is dirty and raunchy and gritty. It's right up, kind of out of the.
It's like sleazy Led Zeppelin.
Cut from the same cloth of sleazy Led Zeppelin, Badlands, The Cult, maybe a little Guns N' Roses kind of, but killer. It's only a 6-song EP, but man, love it. And then of course I think you're probably going to show this as well.
I'm not going to show. I was going to bring it up.
This is the only real metal album I've got of 2020.
I was going to bring it up just because I want to have a little discussion about this, but we'll get into that in a second. We'll save that one. It's not in my top for the 2020. It's not in my bottom, but we'll get into that. So let's see what. Just reading through some of the comments. Yeah, the Smolder is kind of a traditional metal with a female singer. She's got a little different voice. I didn't like her voice when I first, I sampled it on YouTube and didn't like it. But then as I listened to the song, it kind of grew on me, and I really kind of dig her voice now. The only bad thing I have to say about her is she gave the last Judas Priest album a bad review.
Really?
Yeah.
Jesus Christ.
Which makes it, well, to be fair, she's not in her 40s either. So, she didn't grow up with Judas Priest either. So she didn't suffer
through the shit Judas Priest albums either.
I like the shit Judas Priest albums.
Yeah, a shit Judas Priest album is as good as anybody else's great album, right?
I've got even the ones with what's his name. I've got them on vinyl. So, Ripper Owens, yeah. He was great. I like those albums. But
he's actually touring. Isn't he touring with KK now?
Yeah, he's doing that. Yeah, I want to see that. Well, he was touring before they shut the tours down.
Right.
He's also touring with Tourniquet. The new Tourniquet album is him on vocals. He's one of those guys, dude. He's done like 30 projects. He also does Scarred Walls of the Damned, which is really interesting. It's all the guys from Death, the band Death, and then him on vocals. And it's like a power metal, death metal mix. It's really I didn't get it when I was like, why are these guys trying to do power metal death? And I didn't realize who the band was. And then I was flipping through. I was like, holy shit, this is the guys from Death. And it was Ripper Owens.
That's kind of the same way I felt when the first time I heard Down.
Yeah, I love Down.
Being a huge Pantera fan, I'm so used to that thrashy, groovy, where Phil's higher than high. And this, I was like, man, this is sludgy and fucking doomy,
Crowbar.
But it's great. Two totally different things.
That was the New Orleans sound, though. I mean, people didn't realize, they considered the Cowboys from Hell. They didn't realize that Phil was from New Orleans. He's not from Texas like the rest of Pantera was.
Right.
So doing that with Kirk and with Pepper Keenan and, dude, that first album, especially, I have all their albums and I like them all. But that first album with Stone the Crow and all that stuff was such a good album. Yeah. I love it.
That's Nola.
Yeah, Nola.
Yeah. Jared, Backwoods Metal, he sent me a VCLT package last week, which it's on the table to do a video. So a little sneak peek. He sent me the EP, where they did the 4 EPs, made the one album. So he gave me one of those. Mitch is full of it tonight. Is
it metal injection? Yeah, maybe that's what it is.
He sent me one of those EPs. It's like it says EP 2 of 4. So
yeah.
I guess you put them all together, and that was kind of.
There's actually only 2 EPs, though.
Are there only 2? Why does it say 2 of 4?
I don't know, and it's really weird because I think 2 of 4 came out before the second. Dude, it's really weird. So
that's 2 less that I have to worry about buying then.
Yeah, no, there's 2 EPs, and then there's one that's called an EP, but it's a single. And it's 2 of the songs from one of the EPs. It's really
That's
weird.
Stupid.
Yeah. Now, I didn't realize it was that way because I thought I still needed a couple. And as I've been going through my CD collection, I've been pulling everything up on Discogs, and that's when I realized that I had everything that they've released.
Okay.
So I don't know, and I don't even know if they were really numbered that way. I'm not sure exactly what to do. Anyway, but yeah, I got into them really early, and then even the stuff. What's the other band? Crowbar. Some of the heaviest stuff that I've ever heard. I think I sent a copy of one of their albums to Scott, and Scott was like, he couldn't believe how heavy that is. As slow as it is and as heavy as it is.
Oh yeah.
And it's so dark. Kurt is a really bad, or was, I don't know if he still is. He was a really bad alcoholic, and you could really hear it in his lyrics. It was all about darkness and alcoholism and addiction.
See there
you go.
Tyler Childers.
Drinking that redneck swill.
Yeah.
So this is cool. I found this the other day, or right before the lockdown. I don't know if I showed you this.
Jason Isbell. What is that? Just him solo, or is that 400 units?
It's Sirens of the Ditch. It's it's the advanced pressing. Found it for like $1.
That's awesome. It's a little, quirky little things like that kind of make us who we are, and we all get turned on by stuff like that,
There you go. What do you got for that?
Something I've been looking for lately. Anything new you just found out recently that I've dug? Wow. Doesn't have to be a new act. Funny thing, she's on to something, Steve. I know you and I have talked about this, and Brandon and Mitch, we've all talked about this. So I have actually just kind of, for some reason, and cue the dun dun dun.
Are you gonna say Miley Cyrus?
No. This is gonna come as even more shock. You guys are ready to. One of you guys will probably be calling for my metal card, but I, for some reason, I don't know how it happened, totally missed out on Testament. It was one of those bands that I just missed the boat. They've been around forever, and I just never really got into them. So until recently, I was going through my cassette collection, and I was talking with, Brandon. I know I talked to you about this as well, but I know Brandon and I were having the conversation a while back, last week or 2 weeks ago. Don't say it. We were having that conversation, man, and I was going through my metal collection. I'm like, I realized that I have 0 Testament on vinyl, and it's like, holy crap. So I just never really listened to it. And Brandon said to give some of their stuff. I had it on cassette, and so he wanted to. He said, "Give this one a listen." I did, and I love it. So now I've got to jump the gun and start getting some of this other stuff. But yeah, it's not that I was really turned on to something new. It's just I totally missed it. I was oblivious to it.
I got turned on to Testament, and I was kind of late in that I got into them in like 94. I was playing in my first band, and the guitar player was a huge Alex Skolnick fan. And yeah, Robert, man, I'm still waiting for my copy of the New Testament to come in. It's on its way. but he turned me on to them, and I've been hooked ever since. So once I heard them, um, I went out and bought all their cassettes, maybe CDs. I don't remember.
Yeah.
But I had all their stuff, and they've been one of my favorite bands ever since. And they have an album called First Strike Still Deadly that I recommend grabbing. It's from maybe the early 2000s, 2003, 2004. And what it is Alex Skolnick left the band for a couple years, and they went kind of this death metal route for an album, and then did some stuff with oh God, I'm having trouble getting names out today. Dave Lombardo on
you
drum.
didn't have any problem name dropping Miley Cyrus.
But Alex Skolnick came back to the band, and in like 2003, they decided to re-record a bunch of stuff from the from the 80s. And they're better musicians now, and it's just a phenomenal album. It's all stuff from their 80s albums that they just re-recorded as better musicians and with better sound quality. And it's probably my favorite Testament album now, is basically a greatest hits re-recorded,
Nice. So I was thinking while you were talking about that, as far as something new that Vinyl Guru had asked, something new that I've just been turned on to that you guys may or may not be aware of is Yola. That album is unbelievable. She is kind of like the female Chris Stapleton. Man, just killer album. One of my friends actually sent me a text when that album dropped, and she's like, "You have got." Of course, we both love Chris Stapleton, and she's like, "You have to check this gal out." And I was like, when I saw the cover of the album, I'm like, "You got to be shitting me!" But it took about 5 seconds into the first song, and I was like blown away. Great stuff. You need to check out Yola.
I'm not.
Yola.
Yeah, Metal Ben said Crowbar has such a thick and heavy guitar tone. Yeah, they did that. They did that drop D, and they do it real slow. And they actually do. It's not drop D. It's is it double drop D where they drop?
Drop the E.
They drop both E's. They drop the high E and the low D to E to D.
Oh,
and
wow!
It's just the coolest sound, and I love it. And actually, I love tuning my guitar to drop D. I love the way the strings feel. It's just a different feel, and the way it vibrates is really cool. Yeah, no, it is. It's really cool when you're playing it, And I love playing like real sludgy type stuff on the guitar. Plus, I can't play that fast anyway, so it makes me sound like I'm better than I am. So,
it also helps for when you can't sing as high as you want to. So last night during my live stream, I had a request. It was a really special request for a guy who lost one of his dear friends recently, and he wanted to hear Rod Stewart's "Forever Young."
Yeah.
And Rod Stewart sings that song in like E, or maybe even sings it in F. Well, I'm like, there's no way it's gonna happen. So what I did is I just took my guitar and just dropped it down and tuned the whole thing down to D and just played it there, and it worked out good.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of stuff I've been trying to find lately. I showed this one, and I've been listening to this a lot lately too. And it's definitely not a new band, but so like everybody, I got into the Doors when I was college age, when I was pot smoking age, and I had a real good friend that was all he listened to was the Doors, and I got real heavy into the Doors, and I loved them. This is 90, 93, 94, and I bought all their albums. I couldn't stop listening to them, and then I just lost my taste for them. You know. Probably the 2005, 2010, I put something in it. It didn't work for me anymore. And I found some Doors albums like 5 or 6 years ago for cheap, and I bought them and ended up selling them. Nice original pressings. And now about a year ago, I picked up the MoFi pressing of the Doors debut, and I played that thing over, and I forgot how good that album is. So now I've been trying to pick up nice original copies. This one's an original German, or it's a repress from 72. So this is a 72 German repress, but it sounds amazing. So I'm now trying to find early pressings.
Are in our age group, Steve. I think People in our age, we all went through that Doors phase that you just spoke of.
I don't think it's people our age. I think everybody that gets into college and starts doing drugs gets into the Doors and Led Zeppelin.
Well, maybe that's what it is. I just tend to think that a lot of my friends, obviously, they're all our age, and they all went through it. We all went through that Doors phase, went through the exact what you just described, and so it was at a peak where you just couldn't get enough. Got to listen to this. Got to have this album. Got to have that album. And then you just all of a sudden it comes to a grinding halt. You're not listening to them anymore. But now that you get to 40 and 45 years old and you get a nice clean audiophile pressing that sounds great, and you're like, man, this is what I really did like about these guys.
Yeah, that MoFi pressing is phenomenal. And somebody just put analog production. There we go. Yeah,
yeah.
So I ended up finding, I mean, the MoFi pressing goes for 50, 60, 70 bucks now. And I ended up finding it for like 30 bucks in mint condition at one of my local stores. And I actually bought it to trade. One of the guys from another local store is a huge Doors fan. That's his all-time favorite band. That's all that's playing when you go in his record store 9 times out of 10. And he didn't have the MoFi pressing. So I got that. He has a signed copy of the Iron Maiden debut that he got signed himself.
Yeah, I remember you
when he
saw. You and the other guy were you were telling me about it.
And I've wanted that forever. It's just on his wall. I'm always trying to make crazy deals with him for it. So I bought that to try to butter him up because I knew he really wanted that MoFi pressing. Well, it turns out he found a copy of it on MoFi like the week before I bought it. So, but the more I listen to it, the more I'm glad that it didn't work out because you don't find that MoFi pressing for cheap anymore.
The one you were talking about.
Hang on, yeah, Vinyl Guru. It's not just signed Maiden; it's signed Maiden with Di'Anno. It's
Maiden with Di'Anno. That's what I was going to say. That it's got Di'Anno on it. It's like holy shit, man. Andrew actually made a great point with the Doors. Analog Productions, their 45 RPM stuff is so great, and the MoFi stuff that they've been doing recently, that 45 RPM Dylan stuff. I've been slowly adding my Dylan collection. That shit's just so expensive, man. But there's a reason for it. You won't find it any better sounding. I came this close to buying the Stevie Ray Vaughan box in the 45 RPM because I think it was at the deal I was getting, it was like an $80 or $85 difference. And I probably wish now that I probably would have jumped for it. The problem is I'm lazy, man. I don't like turning records every 2 songs, you know, 2 or 3 songs. That's the only bitch about the 45, but they sound killer. They sound phenomenal.
Well, that's like the Miles Davis. They did that box set. MoFi did the box and it sounds amazing, but yeah, it's the same thing. After every song, you got to get up and turn it. Metallica did that a couple years ago, where they did the 45.
The difference in Metallica, though, dude, like say, "Injustice for All," 2 songs per side. Everybody bitches, yo, but it's got 2 songs per side. Yeah, but they're 9-minute songs, man. It's like, come on, you know.
You know, it's funny. You guys are talking about Di'Anno Maiden being your favorite. So here's the deal. I love Iron Maiden, one of my all-time favorite bands. I got into Seventh Son era just because of my age. We were living in Germany at the time, and Seventh Son came out. I got that on cassette, and I played it nonstop. I love it. I hated the Di'Anno era albums until probably about 10 years ago, and now their debut is my all-time favorite Maiden album. It's by far my favorite now. It blows. Now, I will say I saw them last year at Bruce Dickinson, and it was phenomenal. It's one of the best shows I've ever been to. He sounded great. The stage show is one of the coolest stage shows ever. But, man, that Di'Anno era, that punk sound that he had and that punk attitude on stage. Actually, do I still – hang on.
You know, the fact that they're even you mentioned the Legacy of the Beast tour. The fact that they're even recognizing the Di'Anno era songs and Dickinson singing those songs is a testament to the band.
Well, no, even more. He did a Blaze Bayley song.
He did a Blaze Bayley song. Yeah.
So
right.
The Klansman is one of my favorite Iron Maiden songs. I talked about this in a video like 5 or 6 years ago, where I was talking about Maiden. I said I would love to see Bruce Dickinson do the Klansman because it's one of my favorite songs. It was done by Blaze Bayley, and on this tour he actually did the Klansman. And Eddie came out in the kilt and all that. Dude, it was amazing. But yeah, speaking of Iron Maiden, this is by far my all-time favorite Iron Maiden live album, and it's I don't know if you can see it. It's Beast over Hammersmith.
Beast over Hammersmith, yeah.
And this is with Di'Anno. This is and this CD is like $50 now. It's crazy. The only way you could get it was in the little metal box. You remember the little metal Iron Maiden box that they had, like 3 CDs? So when that came out, they released some of these at the same time. It was real limited. Only like 500 of them got released, and now they're going for $50-$60. But
damn, that's
my favorite Maiden right there. And actually, you know, I probably showed this in one of my other videos recently, but I've been buying all these recent soundboard recordings with Di'Anno. So this is live at the Reading Festival, 1980.
And they've got so many of those too, man.
Yeah. I've been buying them up, man. I can't get enough. I love those early shows. He just had that really cool punk attitude. But yeah, so that's become my favorite.
Somebody asked, I think it was Robert, asked earlier if you want to scroll up through the comments. It wasn't too far up. Something about if we could recommend any new punk, new hard, or I'm the wrong guy to talk to, Robert, about that stuff.
I don't really like most new punk, so
Mitch could probably weigh in on some of that.
When I got into punk, it was probably 91 or 92. And we were still all listening to the 80s punk bands. So Dead Kennedys and even the 70s bands like Crass and stuff. Crass is still one of my all-time favorite punk bands. But Crass, and that's still the stuff I listen to. The only modern, and I don't even know if you'd call them punk. They're definitely modern punk, but was Against Me. I absolutely love. I didn't like their last album as much, but every album prior to their most recent one I've loved. And then what is it? Gaslight Anthem had that song, that album, the 59 Sound, is one of the best punk albums of the last 20 years. If you guys haven't checked that out, it's kind of a mix. Yeah, it's kind of a mix of Social Distortion and Bruce Springsteen. It's amazing. Now, sadly, every album they've released since then has been absolute garbage. But that particular album is phenomenal. But yeah, those are the two biggest bands. Yeah, Crass vinyl. I would love to find their albums on vinyl. I've got them all on CD. A lot of their stuff was self-released, you know, so I don't know. I don't think I've seen any of it, and I don't think I've seen it get repressed. I know the guys from, or a couple of the people from Crass, because it was more of a collective. I know a couple of them are still alive, and they're still doing artsy type stuff, but I don't know. The CDs are still out there, so, and they're still being pressed, so there's got to be a way to get the vinyl repressed, but who knows? Maybe it's too capitalistic for them to make money off of their music. You know, they're definitely hardcore anarcho punks and anti-everything, which it's funny, even though I don't believe in any of the stuff that they're saying, I love their music. I love their sound. I love that they're anti-everything. You know, it's just, that band is definitely a moment in time for me. Same with Dead Kennedys, you know? Yeah, and when I want to listen to punk, that's what I go to. The other one is, no, those are the big ones. I was on a Black Flag kick not too long ago. I really liked the early Black Flag before Henry Rollins was in the band.
Henry Rollins came in, yeah.
I mean, I like the stuff with him too. I mean, that album War is like, especially the B-side. I don't know if you've ever listened to that. The B-side of that album is basically a punk Black Sabbath. It's really cool. But that earlier stuff, Fugazi is amazing. I can't believe that's 30 years old.
Now, was Greg Ginn always in Black Flag? Has he always been the guitar player for Black Flag?
I believe he was
the main songwriter, the main guy.
I believe he was in every iteration. I could be wrong. He may not have been there. And I think he did vocals for a little while too.
Oh, okay.
He might have done vocals.
Sure. He may have, actually.
I know Dez. They've had like 4 or 5 different vocalists, so I'm not 100% sure. And Henry Rollins doesn't get along with those guys at all anymore. They're not even on talking terms. Like when people ask him about it, he doesn't. He won't even. He says, "I have nothing to do with those guys."
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
but yeah, but Fugazi, man, I love everything that Fugazi did. Let's see. So Big Black, I remember the album cover for Big Black. And I remember listening to it back when it came out in the 90s. I don't remember the band though. So
The only thing I know about Big Black is Robin Big. Remember do work
oh.
whenever he ate like 20 hot wings and had wet wipes, he called him his man pond. He put him in it.
I liked him. Somebody mentioned the Stooges too. So
yeah, oh yeah, Raw Power.
I love the debut from the Stooges. I think it's one of the best albums of all time. I didn't like Raw Power though. I just thought Raw Power was okay. That first album.
One of those Sound of Vinyl or Vinyl Me Please just did a really killer reissue of the debut.
Oh, I'll have to check that out. Yeah, actually, I know that because they did a single. I have the single. Is it Summer of '69? Is the song? I can't remember, but I don't remember Funhouse. I've had it before, but it's been years. Their debut though has always been just one of the all-time great albums, and
that's some stuff too that's really impossible to find. You know, we talked about the some of that early the harder to find country and of course the metal and punk stuff. That stuff, the Stooges stuff, is impossible to find.
Oh yeah. You know, and if you find it, you're going to pay.
And if you find it, you're going to pay out the ass for it. Definitely.
I've seen Raw Power original copies for decent prices, but that's it. The debut just doesn't show up. Yeah, Sundays did one a couple years ago. I do remember that. But yeah, it's any of that stuff. And Iggy Pop is just one of the ultimate frontmen. You know, he's probably in the top 10 frontmen of all time. That dude was out there. So
definitely out there.
So
what else you want to talk about the Ozzy?
We
had some questions about the Ozzy.
I don't know how I feel about the Ozzy. So I have it, you know, and I ordered the same copy that you did, and mine is not a great sounding pressing, but so it's not a terrible.
The Urban Outfitter. You got the Urban Outfitters one as well.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, that's the one I have.
So it's not a terrible sounding pressing, but it's. And here's the thing: I bought that Ozzy box set, and those things sound phenomenal. That is some of the best sounding records I've heard. That's like mobile fidelity quality sound on those records. And I was kind of hoping for that with this, and that's definitely not what this is.
No. So the problem is yes, it's not the quality of what you got in that box set. It's not mobile fidelity. It's not audiophile quality. However, what you have and what I have, from what I can tell and all the information I've been able to gather and you've been able to gather, it's the best sounding pressing on vinyl at this point that they have out there.
It sounds amazing.
Yeah.
And I'm going to do, the Pressing Wars videos that I do. I'm going to pull a couple, at least one or two albums from that box set that I've got originals of. Maybe like Bark at the Moon and a couple of others, just so I can do a side-by-side comparison. But let's see.
I wish I had ordered it whenever you told me you ordered yours. I was in the middle of a big, huge Japanese order, and had a lot of money, a lot of my money tied up at that point.
I just got an email that they
right around Christmas time too. So
I just got an email a few days ago that they still have some for sale.
They still have them, but hell, I'm not working, man. That's the bitch of it. If I was working, I'd ordered it already.
Mitch, they did a box set about 6 months ago, and it's Ozzy's entire discography in one box, and the box is beautiful. The Vinyl Guru mentioned controversy over the signed box sets. I haven't heard about controversy over the box sets. I have heard controversy over the signed copies of this.
Oh, really?
So there were a bunch of signed copies of this, and people are saying it was done with an auto pen.
Oh, no shit.
Yeah, they held up a bunch of copies next to each other, and the signature is exactly the same.
Same size, same everything, huh?
So don't buy the record. You can still buy the box set from the Ozzy website for the normal price.
Right.
So even though it's selling for $800, $1,000 on the secondary market, you can still go to Ozzy.com right now and buy it for the original price. They've still got copies for sale. I just got an email about it like 3 or 4 days ago that they still have copies because I'm on the mailing list for Ozzy.com.
Wonder if they have redneck payment plan. Do y'all have layaway?
Oh, probably not.
Man, I got to figure out how to get it though.
I used part of my wife was pissed. You heard her talking about it.
Oh yeah.
When she saw the price of it, but I used part of my Christmas bonus for that.
Bonus. How did you get a bonus?
Well,
I cut out bonuses this year.
Yeah,
it's my Christmas vacation.
I can't talk about that, but
I've emptied that one, man. I got to quit getting into it.
But so here's the thing with this. So I was looking at some websites the last couple days, like the top albums of 2020, the top metal, and all these websites are listing this as one of the top 10 albums for 2020 or top 10 heavy metal albums for 2020.
There's only 10 out, man.
I don't get it. Here's the deal. Yes, this is the best album since, what's the one with Perry Mason on it?
Osmosis.
This is the best Ozzy album since Osmosis.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
But it's not near as good as Osmosis is. It's the best album he's done in a long time.
Right.
But so I've listened to this twice. And since I've listened to it twice, I haven't felt the need to listen to it again.
Right. I've listened to it. I listened to it 3 times the day I got it.
Yeah.
And I have actually went back and respun it twice. So I've listened to it 5 times total. It's one of those albums that I will completely agree with you. It's his best album since Osmosis. It's undeniably Ozzy. It's good. And I'm just glad. I think we're all just glad to have new material from Ozzy.
Well, and I mean, the way his health is, this is likely the last thing we'll get from Ozzy.
Yes. B, to have good new material from Ozzy. But yeah, you're right. It's one of those where the sheen will wear off pretty quick. I think it'll never stand up the test of time like No Rest or Blizzard or any of that stuff. But it is good. I just take it for face value and what it is. I think it's a really good album. Side A is phenomenal. Dude, if Side B were as good as Side A.
I don't even like, people were talking trash about the song with Post Malone. I think it's genius.
Track, I think.
And people can say, I don't mind when artists do stuff like this because, listen, this is a guy that's in his 60s that's using Post Malone to introduce his music to a whole new generation of kids. So, I don't think it's a bad song. It's not my favorite song. It's, it doesn't bother me, though. Like, all these people were up in arms about it.
My big hang up with the whole album and the whole thing is that Zach wasn't working on, wasn't affiliated with the
he hasn't been. No, he hasn't been since Black Rain because
I understand, but he could have been. The reason he wasn't is because they didn't want him to write any of the stuff.
No, that's the way it's been, though. I remember back when Black Rain came out, he said that if Ozzy's hiring all these outside guys to write for us, I refuse to play on him, and I don't blame him.
I don't blame him. But man, wouldn't you love to just if this was going to be, and we don't know, none of us know, but if this was going to be the last Ozzy album, wouldn't you want Zach or Jakey playing guitar on it?
I don't know.
I
love Zach. He's one of my all-time favorite guitar players. He's one of the coolest guys ever. I've met him a couple times. He's one of the nicest guys you'll ever meet.
Yeah.
And I can't blame him though, not wanting to play.
No.
That's like I don't remember if it was Black Rain or the album after that where 2 of the songs were written by Dave Grohl, and he's like, dude, I know Dave Grohl, we're friends, but I refuse to play any shit written by Dave Grohl. He's like, that's not metal. And I can't blame him. So Vinyl Guru mentioned the auto pen. So with the box set, I don't care. I didn't buy it for the signed certificate that's in there. I don't think that's any of the value from that box set is the fact that Ozzy signed it. I actually have, I don't know if you've seen it in some of my videos. I have a signed copy of Paranoid it was actually signed, by him. It wasn't like a pre-ordered deal. So even if those are auto penned, I don't really care.
Even and
But
like you
it's
said
pretty
in
shady if it was.
one of your recent videos, you actually I think said when you went through it, I think putting aside the autograph, uh, what all that you get in there when you break it down, it's like $25 a record. You know,
Yeah, I think if you just break
25
down
to
the
30
price
bucks.
by the
Yeah.
record, it's like $32 a record. But then each record has a monster poster that those posters would cost you $5 or $6 a piece.
Oh,
So
easy.
I mean, when you take that out, yeah, it comes out to about $25 a record. And like I said, it's the best sounding records I've heard. They've already said that each one is colored vinyl. They've already said they're not going to re-release them. That's the only way to get those colors.
That's what they say. But I was just gonna say, how long before we get a reissue of No More Tears?
Well, and they may,
whatever,
you know, but a lot of that stuff, you know, there's an EP and then another full album that have never been released before that they said they probably won't release outside of that box. So it was worth it to me. That doesn't bother me at all. And then it's true, definitely, about the music snobs saying they see Post Malone and automatically think, you know, Ozzy's selling out or whatever. But and Post Malone, man, I don't know if you've seen his videos. He's a great singer.
Oh yeah, let's be honest though, that if you asked Ozzy Osbourne who the hell Post Malone was a year ago, that was Sharon, you know, the genius and the brilliance behind, and a little bit of the greediness, you know, but it's genius behind what Sharon does and how she is the motor behind what is Ozzy Osbourne. I mean, she has driven that bus for a long time. Let's be honest.
Yeah. I hope they do. A couple people are mentioning the vinyl. Yeah, it's all, each one is splattered vinyl. Each one's a different color that matches the album cover. And yeah, there's a bunch of exclusive posters. All the posters are unreleased photos. And they're actually really cool. There's an app that you can download and point. Did I show you this when you were here?
Oh yeah, I was there. You watch a damn video.
Yeah, you can point your phone at the posters and a video pops up. And dude, it's the coolest thing. They did a great job. It's literally, I've got some really nice box sets, and that is by far the nicest box set that I have.
Yeah, I was blown away when I saw it.
They did a great job with that box set, and it's expensive. It's worth every dollar of it. I don't even think there's another box set. I know there's not one that's even a fifth of that price in my collection. So, although some of them, like the Vinyl Guru showed recently, the David Bowie, the 5 years box set. I do have that one, and those are going for $1,000 now. But that's because it was a real limited run, and then he died the next year. So
it was the timing,
it was just perfect timing. And luckily, I grabbed that before, and I grabbed it on discount because the record store had it for $200 for like 6 months, and it just sat there. And I think I paid like $135 for it or something like that, you know. And
I mean, actually, Brandon and I were talking about that as well. You know, I walk in. Of course, you walk in Brandon's place, and it's like the friggin' Bat Cave, man. You walk in, you're like, holy shit, dude. And you know, we all have our own holy shit places, you know. But you walk in Brandon's place, and you're like, golly. And talk about box sets. And so he and I kind of just started, and he mentioned the Bowie. Those jumped right out at me because I think Brandon and I actually kind of started hanging out right around that time when Bowie passed. And it was like, yeah, man, those things freaking skyrocketed. They're through the moon.
But I don't agree. You're crazy if you got that for free. That's crazy. I love that box set. That's it for me. But
free.
Yeah, that's insane. Yeah, Brandon is definitely the king of box sets. Brandon and what's his name in Tucson? Robert Z has some amazing box sets too. But let's see what else we got going. I'm just kind of reading through the comments. Poster, black vinyl. Yeah, they probably will release those on black vinyl too. But
hopefully, you know, we talked about them. They
will. Somebody asked what albums were missing. It's all the albums through Scream.
Everything through Scream. And they all
including Live and Loud.
They're kind of color coded pressed vinyl, right? They kind of did a match. There was only one or two that they didn't.
They're all flatter, and all but one or two matched the colors of the album artwork and stuff.
They were really cool. I thought they did a great job. So hopefully, if they do reissue some of those, they only issue them in straight black.
Who knows?
Yeah.
Yeah, he said that you caught Bowie on the Heathen tour, man. That would have been a great time to catch Bowie. That's right when he was kind of turning his sound around again. He kind of fell off the mark for a while there, and Heathen is really where he turned it around. That album is, I talked about that maybe a few months ago. That album is phenomenal. Unfortunately, I didn't like the follow up, but Heathen was real close to the most recent album. I never saw him live though. I wish I would have been able to see Bowie live. There's a lot of bands though. You know, we hear all these people in the VC talk about all the bands they saw in the 80s and stuff. We just couldn't afford it. You know, my family didn't have money for concerts. So it was the mid 90s when I had the money myself that I started going to concerts. And then from 95 to recent, you know, I go to as many concerts as I can. But even when I was doing live shows, a lot of the bands that I saw back then just happened to be because I did live shows at certain venues. I could get into those venues for free for some of the bigger name bands that were doing shows there. So I saw a lot of bands that way too. But
you know, we can't leave this live feed without touching on the fact that we're able to do this now, and kind of a little bit of the situation that we're in has kind of forced us to communicate this way. You know, I mean, of course, we're halfway across the country, but you know, I do stop in and see you, you know, whenever I'm going through. But I think this is great that we're able to do this. We're able to get on and just through, I guess, necessity nowadays. A lot of people are doing this, and I think it's great, not only in the vinyl community, but in the music community as well. I think I shared it with you. I know I shared it with maybe Brandon and Mitch, Sammy Hagar and the Circle, all those guys getting together, and they would record the tracks. You know, Jason's playing the drums, and they did the Who cover, "We Won't Get Fooled Again," and I love seeing bands do that. I think the Rolling Stones actually just did one today. Craziest live act I've ever seen. So I have photographed concerts for years, and I have never in my life been scared than both the times that I shot Marilyn Manson. And this was early in their career. They were opening up for, the first time I saw them, they were opening up for Megadeth. And then I think the second time I saw them, no, the first time I saw them, they were opening up for Danzig. I was shooting Danzig, and it was Marilyn Manson and I think Fear Factory. And then the next time I saw him, it was Flotsam and Jetsam, Marilyn Manson, and Megadeth. And so this would have been in the early 90s. And Marilyn Manson scared the shit out of me, man. At one point, somebody threw a beer bottle up on stage, and he grabbed the beer bottle, smashed it on his microphone stand, and cut himself. I mean, he's literally bleeding, to the point that I'm thinking, this guy's bleeding all over everybody. I'm standing underneath him. I'm like, I'm getting
that all comes from the Stooges.
Oh my God.
That all comes from the Stooges.
Just totally insane. I mean, yeah.
Yeah, I remember the ripping up Bibles. That was a huge thing in Phoenix when he ripped up the Bible.
That was the craziest live experience I've ever witnessed.
So the craziest live experience for me is for a different reason. And I talked about this 3 or 4 years ago, but I saw Primus in 94 or 95, whatever year Tales from the Punch Bowl came out. I saw him on that tour. Primus was one of my favorite bands for a while there. And I ended up getting free tickets. It was them and Mike Watt opened up for him. If you're not familiar with Mike Watt, he's an old school punk guy.
Mike Watt. Is that anything like Mike Hunt?
No.
Michael Hunt?
But Mike Watt was doing a solo show, and he came out and he had 2 drummers playing, and Mike Watt's a bass player. He's playing. It's the worst sounding shit I have ever heard in my life. And he started getting booed off a stage. I had never in my life seen, especially somebody. Mike Watt is one of those guys. If you grew up in the punk scene, he's one of those names that's way up there. Everybody knows this guy. And he's one of the best punk bass players of all time. but what he put together just sounded like shit. He was off key with the drums. The drummers didn't line up. It was some really, maybe they were going for some free jazz type of bullshit, but it wasn't working. I don't know. It was terrible. And he didn't even make it halfway through his first song, and he was getting booed off stage. People were throwing water bottles at the stage. He stops the music, and he's like, I'm an old school punk. I'll come down here and fuck every one of you up. And he flies into the audience and just starts throwing blows. It's the craziest thing I've ever seen. So he gets booed off a stage. We ended up sitting there for like 40 minutes because Primus wasn't near set up to go live. You know, they were supposed to start their show like an hour and a half later. So then they ended up, and they came out to a crazy wild crowd. And so they start off with the song "Here Come the Bastards" off of "Sailing the Seas of Cheese," and Les Claypool's got that $10,000 custom bass, probably more than that, but he had that custom 6-string bass back then, and he's getting down, and somebody throws a water bottle and it hits his bass, and he stops dead in the show, and he's like, "Listen, I know you're upset. If another water bottle touches me or touches my bass, I'm fucking gone." And from there, the show took off, and it got really good. But to add to the story, later on, another song was, I think it was Jerry Was a Race Car Driver, a mosh pit started right in the middle of the crowd. And I'm not a mosh pit guy, but me and the girl that I was there with were standing on the edge of it, and she took a shoulder to the mouth, and her tooth went all the way through her lip.
Oh.
And so she's like just wearing a white shirt, just covered in blood, and she's totally into it. She thought this was like a war scar for her, you know.
Out there looking like Andrew WK.
Oh, it was insane. It was a crazy ash. That was the craziest show I've been to. For that, I've also been to some crazy stuff too, where I went to the very first Ozfest. And I've talked about this. I don't mean the first year. I mean the very first Ozfest was in Phoenix. And the first year of Ozfest, it was 2 shows. It was Phoenix and LA. That was it. It was one stage. It was like Danzig and Sepultura before Max left the band. Max left the band like 2 months later. And yeah, like Andrew WK. And Slayer and Ozzy. I think that was it. It wasn't a lot of bands. It was like 4 or 5 bands. So there's all these whites or skinheads walking around, you know, doing their white power shit. And they're all wearing Slayer shirts and Sepultura shirts. And I'm like, wait a minute, these are all white supremacists, and Slayer or Sepultura is all Brazilians. Yeah. Slayer is a Colombian dude, a Puerto Rican dude. I think one of them's like half Mexican. You know what I mean? It was just the craziest thing watching these skinheads talking white power with all these bands that are full of South American dudes. It was hilarious to me. Anyway,
so Vinyl Guru asks about colored vinyl.
Yeah. I love it.
So I don't actively seek it out unless it is a like an indie record store exclusive, something like that. Then I will, like this one in particular. I'm just going to show this to kind of get Steve's goat a little bit.
Yeah, because I know
you missed that on this one, but
I blame you because you didn't tell me about it.
I did tell you about it. So this is the really cool yellow splatter. Like I said, I don't really actively seek them out unless they are like a record store, an indie store exclusive. I'm kind of indifferent, but if they are cool, like those Aussies, those things are bad to the bone.
Yeah,
you ought to show one of those Aussies, man.
Yeah, I was thinking about grabbing one. Yeah, this is the Haunt.
That's a beautiful piece right there. Yeah. Oh yeah, I love that. That side's much better than the other side, man.
Yeah, it's really like that. There's some albums that are like that. But actually, that Sacred Right too is pretty cool.
It is.
That one's
you know what? Matter. That's that orange colored one. Yeah, that's a badass one too.
Is that one orange or is that just clear and black? I thought.
I think it's that orange. That's the gray. That's right. But man, that is beautiful.
What I don't like about clear vinyl. Yeah, have a good one, Mitch. Take care, bud.
See you, Mitch. Thanks for tuning in, buddy.
What I don't like about the colored vinyl is when it doesn't match the record. or jacket. You know, you'll see a lot of them.
And you got the jacket here. That thing matched it perfectly.
Yeah, yeah. Actually, let me grab a couple of the. I'll grab.
Those Aussies, man. Whenever you, I was at Steve's house and he was showing me that box set. Some of them just really, they did a great job color coordinating the jacket with the vinyl pressing. So yeah, that was cool.
Yeah, of course, the No More Fears is right on top because that's what I've been listening to the most.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, you got the gold and black and then the vinyl.
Yeah, gorgeous.
Is the same colors. So
and the center label. Show that center label too. That center label's nice too with the big OZ. Right? Yeah. Oh yeah. That's a beautiful center label.
And most of them match. So here's the Blizzard. And this one is red to match the cover.
Yeah.
So they did a really good job with the Aussie Box Diary. I think this one's yellow, if I remember correctly. So you got the album cover. This one's blue, so this one kind of matches.
Adds a little bit of that blue in it.
Blue and red. And if you look at the background, there's a little bit of blue in the background there and red. So they did a really good job with those. My thing with colored vinyl is I don't like when they charge a premium for it. If they're going to charge $5 or $6 more for it, then I generally won't buy it. I'll buy the cheaper pressing. But I like when it complements the album art. You know, I hear people say that it doesn't sound as good. I think that's horse shit. I've got more albums than 90% of the people out there, and that the colored vinyl pressings that I have that sound like crap, the black vinyl pressings sound like crap too. Now, picture disc we can have a whole other discussion about, but when it comes to vinyl, it sounds just as good. So
yeah,
it's still the same. It's still the same mix of materials. So, but yeah, that's my thing with colored vinyl. If I have a choice between black vinyl and colored vinyl, I'll choose the colored. I think it adds a little more to the experience. Now, I will say I'm a Beatles fan. They're redoing the Beatles albums again. I don't need colored vinyl. Well, no, they're doing the anniversary editions now, the box sets and stuff.
Oh,
like I've got the White Album box set over there. Stuff like that I don't need to see in colored vinyl. I'm okay with, the Doors or the Beatles on black vinyl. Although they did do certain things. They did do the White Album on white vinyl back in the 80s, but
yeah. Certain bands, certain acts, certain albums, black vinyl's the only way to go, right?
Yeah. But like I said, and actually it's funny. There's a couple of metal labels now where the black vinyl is the limited edition one and the colored vinyl. So they'll do 500 on colored vinyl and 100 on black vinyl. So yeah. The Ozfest shows, that first show was killer. I mean, that was the last set of shows with John Christ with Danzig. He left the band after that. Phil Anselmo, Slayer. Lombardo had just left Slayer, so they were just starting with, I think it was Tempesta. John Tempesta was the drummer. And this was right around the time Undisputed Attitude was or maybe it was, what's the one with the guy with Slayer carved into his arms? Whatever album that was.
That was Divine Intervention.
Yeah, I think they were torn for Divine Intervention about
that. Would have, yeah, when you mentioned Christ leaving, that would have been early 95. That would have been 95 probably, because I think Christ was there through Danzig 4. So that would have been 94, 95. So it may be early 96.
I think he was still there for Black Acid Devil, wasn't he?
I may be wrong.
I think he was there for Black Acid Devil.
Maybe it was 96. Maybe it was 96.
His guitar player now is a guitar player from Prong. So, and I really want to hear his new Elvis covers. Did you see he just dropped new Elvis covers?
I will buy it.
How'd you like Skeletons?
I'm a sucker for Danzig. I love the idea and the concept behind Skeletons, but the production is dog shit, man.
Well, yeah, he's producing it himself in his house.
It's terrible. I could make a better album in my basement.
Yeah. Well, he made it in his basement, so.
Yeah, but he's fucking Glenn Danzig.
I like it though. I don't know.
Yeah.
I've always been a fan of his though. Let's see.
I'm curious to hear the Elvis stuff though.
Yeah. So, but like I said, I saw this was October of 90. Is it October of 96? Yeah, it was October 96 that the show was. And Max Cavalera left the band in December of 96.
Okay, so 96.
It was his last.
But you saw him. So it would have been the fall of 96 when you saw that then.
Yeah, so I saw him literally a month and a half before he left.
Okay.
And actually, if you guys haven't seen, there's a Sepultura double CD called Under the Dark Gray Sky, I believe is what it is. It's a double live, and it's one of my all-time favorite live albums. It's the final show with Max Cavalera. He literally finished that show, walked off stage, and walked out of the venue, and he quit the band.
Was done.
That was the last show that he did, and he killed it. I mean, he blew, and they're amazing live anyway. I saw them twice live, both times with Ozzy, and both times, I mean, they're by far. They're one of my top 3 bands of all time. I've always loved them.
I saw them on the second leg of the Metallica Black tour when they came. When they toured for that album, 5 years or some shit on that album, and I think I saw them. It was Suicidal, Sepultura, and Danzig, and Metallica.
Yeah,
that was a killer lineup, and Suicidal was. They were great, but Sepultura was killer.
So what's the best live show you ever went to?
I've been to hundreds, man. I would say I'm a sucker for my nostalgia, my Kiss. So Kiss Revenge is probably top 3. Here I am, Billy, can't make my mind up, Hurst.
Now the there you go.
Kiss Revenge. And Dwight Yoakam This Time.
So for me, it is the Beastie Boys on the Ill Communication tour, and Bad Brains opened for him.
Oh, wow.
I had never heard Bad Brains before. Not only did they put on one of the most amazing sets, they came out into the audience. And they were in the audience, in the mosh pits, hanging out with the fans for the Beastie Boys show. This was the Ill Communication tour. In between songs, they were doing those funk and jazz instrumentals. Dude, it was literally the best show that I've ever been.
Were they doing their Rastafarian type music, or were they doing more of their metal geared stuff? Because Brandon can maybe, if Brandon's still on here, Brandon, let us know what the name. Brandon came over and he brought a Bad Brains record over. The only thing.
Oh no, Bad Brains did a mix. They did both.
Yeah. Oh yeah. But this one particular record that Brandon brought over, I can't remember which one it was absolutely killer. See, to me, when I think of Bad Brains, I think of more of the Jamaican.
Oh yeah. No, they're early. That New York punk. I mean, they're from the same area as Henry Rollins and Ian MacKaye, and they're all part of that Washington D.C. sound. And man, and it's funny because I was a fan of Ian MacKaye. I was a fan of Henry Rollins, and I knew who Bad Brains were. It's one of those bands that I always heard about. I had just never been exposed to them. And man, they murdered it on stage. And then I just couldn't believe. So, I grew up with the Beastie Boys. I bought Ill Communication, or not Ill Communication. I bought License to Ill on cassette right when it came out. I remember buying that and LL Cool J the same time. The one I Need Love, Walking with the Panther. I bought those 2 cassettes together and played them nonstop. So I was always a fan of the Beastie Boys. I didn't know how good of musicians they were. I mean, when you hear those funk instrumentals on Paul's Boutique and the jazz instrumentals and stuff, that's all them. And when you see it live, it's 10 times better. I mean, it was, and actually, I was drinking a lot of whiskey. So as you got the buzz going and that bass starts hitting you, it was just like the perfect atmosphere. And man, it's still, and I've seen hundreds of shows since then, and none have been as good as. And I've been to some great shows, but yeah. I got to put that one up there.
LL Cool J, yeah.
I actually saw LL Cool J. I saw LL Cool J in 91 or 92. There was a station in Phoenix called Power 92. Or no, I'm sorry. It was the other. There was another station called Y95. Those were the two hip hop stations, and they had a thing called Y Fest every year. And this was back then. The only big festivals was Lollapalooza. That was it. And then they started doing this Y Fest, and it would kind of tour around. But I saw it was a 2-day show, and it was like LL Cool J and Sir Mix-a-Lot, and I'm trying to think, second to none. It was 2 days, all the big bands from 91, 92. And then it was mixed in with like Keith Sweat, and it was a great show. Anyway, but
so LL Cool J, would that have been his Mama Said Knock You Out album? That would have been
no, it was before that.
No, man, that I swear I tried. We obviously related.
I thought that was like 94 or 95 when that came out.
No, that
you might be right. You might be right.
That would have had to have been 92, somewhere in that 91, 92.
I want to say it was
the Walking with the Panther. Was that going back to Cali? Was that on that one?
No, Walking with the Panther is I Need Love, and you might be Bigger and Deffer is I Need Love. Walking with the Panther is Going Back to Cali.
Yeah.
No, I'm trying to think of the name. So he had the song Pink Cookies, and I can't remember what album. It was the album before Mama Said Knock You Out. It wasn't a great album.
Okay.
Oh, it's gonna drive me. Oh wow! So there you go, 1990. So yeah, it would have been Mama Said Knock You Out. I thought it was
1990. Yeah. So because that one, Andrew, did that one have Milky Cereal?
Oh no, I'm thinking of Mr. Smith. I'm confusing the two albums.
Okay. Milky Cereal.
14 Shots to the Dome. That's the album I'm thinking of right there. You are the man. Thank you.
Yeah, 14 Shots to the Dome. Yeah. Yes.
He had a song called, it was Put Pink Cookies in a Plastic Bag Being Crushed by a Building. Those were the lyrics. It sounds.
Dude, we went from country to metal.
Well, I can go. We can go any direction. It doesn't matter. 14 Shots. Yeah. I haven't listened to that album since 1991 or 92, whenever it came out.
Speaking of colored reissues, colored vinyl pressing reissues.
I know where you're going.
Did you see that Eazy-E?
I knew where you were going right when you said it.
Oh, dude.
I tried to find it after you told me about it. It was already sold out.
They're sold out.
I love that album.
That album is bad to the bone. It's we're speaking, Andrew. If you didn't see my video with it, it was 187. It's on Dr. Dre, Killer. Man, that's one of my favorites. With real motherfucking G's and
I love that album.
Golly.
Growing up in Phoenix, we grew up on West Coast rap. I mean, Phoenix is, even though it's not West Coast, it's very a West Coast hip hop city, and the scene there is very West Coast. The gangs there are very West Coast. But Robert mentioned seeing Metallica. So here's the deal: I have never seen Metallica live, and it drives me. No. And here's the thing: I was at the Lollapalooza that they played at. It was the Lollapalooza where Metallica and Soundgarden headlined. My girlfriend got sick right after Rancid played, sick to the point where we had to leave. Like she was throwing up. The dust was, she was in really bad shape. She ended up having to go to the hospital that night. But because we left, because she was feeling sick, I never got to see Soundgarden or Metallica. And now I'll never
got
see
a new
Soundgarden.
Girlfriend, dude.
Huh? We didn't date for much longer after that, unrelated.
See where it got you?
Yeah, but man, to see and Metallica, I'll see Metallica, and they tour nonstop.
You just jinxed them now. One of these guys is gonna die of the freaking coronavirus.
They'll still tour. They'll just replace them.
Yeah.
Let's be honest. There's too much money behind Metallica, but I've never seen them, and like they played the stadium here. I would have paid big money to go see them, and I didn't find out about it until the tickets were $900 a piece, and I wasn't paying $900 a piece for a ticket, But man, I really just wanted to see Soundgarden, and the fact that Chris Cornell's dead now and I'll never see him. I was lucky enough to see Alice in Chains. I saw Pearl Jam in their early days before I stopped liking them. I didn't get to see Nirvana live, but and the other one that I'm upset that I didn't get to see was Sublime, because I was supposed to go to see Sublime live before Bradley Nowell died. And
Sublime, you probably have a tramp stamp too, don't you?
I love Sublime. I love them.
You're giving me crap over Taylor Swift.
There's no comparing Sublime and Taylor Swift. Come on,
yes,
really?
There is. Yes, there is.
You're ridiculous. But yeah, I should have been able to go to see them. I don't remember what happened. I had to work or something, so I gave my tickets away to a friend of mine, and then like 2 weeks later, Bradley Nowell OD'd, so didn't get to see them either. So, it is what it is. But let's see. Yeah, very Weedfield. Listen, back then, Vinyl Guru, everything was very Weedfield. My body was very Weedfield in those days. Yeah, Pearl Jam. I can't stand anything that Pearl Jam has done in the last 20 years, but those first 3 albums I absolutely love. I've tried to give them a chance. I've tried to give them a chance since then. I've bought a few of the albums, and I just can't get into them at all.
But I won't take away from their historical significance. I mean, they're still, for some reason, the people that love them. It's kind of like Springsteen. Yeah. I've knocked on Springsteen for years until the light bulb went on, and I'm like, holy shit, this is what I've been knocking on for years. But now I get it. There's so many people out there that know nothing of Springsteen outside of Dancing in the Dark and Born in the USA, and maybe Streets of Philadelphia.
That album, I do like that. Oh. That album that's off of, I do like. But what album was that? That was a Springsteen too. That wasn't an E Street album.
That was the Springsteen, yeah.
Yeah. But what was I about to say? Yeah, so Kiss, I was never, and it's funny because I don't know if Mr. Hall of Fame is still on, but Brandon, we talked about this. We almost had the same exact experience. Anyway, I was never a big Kiss fan. I liked, their regular songs that you hear on the radio. I liked all of that stuff. But I never got the whole Kiss thing until I saw them in 2011. And in 2011, they were using I think it was a 75 stage show. So obviously, Paul Stanley's voice wasn't as good as it was in 1975, but I was blown away by how good that show was. And that show kind of made me a Kiss fan.
I think that would have been what Andrew was just saying. I think that was the Alive 35. I think
it may have been. It was 2011.
It was the 77, the Alive 2.
And I wasn't even there to see them. Motley Crue was the opening band. Yeah, and I go and see Motley Crue every time they come through. And I was there to see Motley Crue. And I told my wife, I was like, if this second band, Kiss, sucks, we're just going to leave. And we stayed, and man, they blew away Motley Crue. Now, I will say, when I saw Motley Crue on their final tour, that stage show was amazing too. But they're not a very good. They're definitely a headliner. Motley Crue is not a good opening act.
No, was that when Godsmack was on that bill?
No, it was a no-name band that opened up, and then Motley Crue, and then Kiss.
So it wasn't the Crue Fest then. I saw the
Crue Fest was before that.
Yeah, I saw them on Crue Fest too.
And Crue Fest, on the Crue Fest, Motley Crue was the headliner.
Yeah. But
they
shouldn't have been, man. Anytime Godsmack's opening up for Crue.
On this one, Kiss
blew them out of the
when
water.
I saw them in 2011, Kiss was a headliner.
Yeah.
So it's funny you mentioned that. So Vinyl Guru, I don't know. She said that, here, I'll put this up.
Oh, yeah.
It was hard for me to tell. So I just saw them when they came through here, what was it, 6 months ago or so.
And you and I talked about this exact same thing.
When he was on the main stage, I feel like he was singing. However, when he came across, and here's what pissed me off about seeing him on this tour. This is their final tour. You would think it would be special. It's the exact same show from 2011. The same song order, everything, the same stage show. The computer screens were different and the pyrotechnics were different, but it was the same exact show as 2011. Now, when he flies across to that little mini stage, I was really close to that mini stage. I'm sure he was lip syncing when he went to the mini stage, but he may not have. He may have been lip syncing on the main stage too. It didn't feel like it though. And when he talked in his, it's so funny. He sounds like a stereotypical old Jewish lady whenever he starts talking in between songs. It's the funniest thing I've ever, like the old Yiddish lady you see on the New York movies from back in the day. That's exactly what he sounds like when he starts talking.
I'm a huge Kiss fan and have been ever since I was like 4 years old.
Yeah.
I was laughing at Vinyl Guru's the bottom line there. She still loves his chest hair. I remember
he's in his 60s and they're all in. They look great for 60 years, something years old.
Painted on. They even had the chest hair painted on the little Mego dolls from 1977. But dude, I've been a Kiss fan. I've been a member of the Kiss Army since I was like freaking 4 years old. So I bought in early, and I've bought in often. And I kind of stopped giving a damn. Maybe after the Psycho Circus tour, I don't know what year that was. 2008 maybe.
Yeah, see, I missed all that stuff. When they got back together, like Black Sabbath, I missed a lot of the Black Sabbath stuff because I was in Japan when all that stuff happened.
But like, touching on the Paul lip syncing debacle, I totally get it. I totally understand. They're out there to make it with them. It's a show, and I think you and I we talked on this. You're paying for the experience. You're paying for the show. While I think he's singing what he can, I would much rather them feed in a little bit of to give us the experience and walk away feeling good about paying. Because let's be honest, the tickets are fucking what, $250. I mean, they're not.
I think I ended up paying $160, but still.
Yeah, they're not cheap. But you want to walk away thinking like you had a good experience. You don't want to walk away thinking you just heard a toad croaking up there into the microphone. Now, I will say this in Paul's defense. We were speaking of these home concert series that everybody's doing now on YouTube. I'm sure you can see them. Paul's been doing these home concert series, concerts from the living room or whatever. And I think the rest has actually done him better because he was actually singing. And I'm not saying he's Paul Stanley quality of 1975 or 1977, but he's much better than he was 5 years ago.
Yeah.
Yeah. Paying for fireworks and very Yiddish women. Paul Stanley, how you doing, people? I want to hear you over here.
I tell you what, Gene Simmons is the one that really surprised me back in 2011. I didn't realize how many of those songs, because like I said, I wasn't a huge Kiss fan. I didn't realize how many of those songs were Gene Simmons singing. And a lot of my favorite Kiss songs are Gene Simmons songs. So So I was shocked by that the first time I saw him. But like I said, my biggest disappointment, when I saw him in 2011, I thought they were amazing. It was an amazing show. And had they done a different show last year, I would have felt totally different than I did. I still thought it was a good show, but it sucks that you're seeing the same thing from 2 years ago,
Hey, Melinda, how are you? Good. Thanks for joining us. I don't know how long Melinda's been on here. But yeah, you mentioned your favorite songs from Kiss are Gene songs. Mine as well. And I think that it shouldn't come as any shock because it's the heavier stuff.
Well, yeah,
I do love some of the pop. I love the Peter Criss stuff, man. Hard Luck Woman.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think they get crapped on a lot more than they should. And
I will say, when he does "God of Thunder" live, that's the best part of the show. It's
killer, man. It's killer.
You missed the Ozzy box set, yeah. You can still, like I said, it's still out there. I don't know if you talking about showing it or buying it, but like I said, it's still available on the Ozzy website. So,
yeah, Vinyl Guru, I like the Ace Frehley stuff too, man. And as a matter of fact, I bought Rolling Stones, His Satanic Majesty's Request album just based on being a Kiss fan, and then getting into the Stones later. I bought that album strictly on the 2000 Man, and because I love Ace's version of 2000 Man. I love New York Groove, Shock Me, all those songs. But yeah. And you see they actually have the what's the is it Trouble Walking is going to be a reissue, a Record Store Day reissue this year.
Yeah, I think that's.
And then so I'm kind of stoked on that. But I hate that Rolling Stones record, man. That and after reading some reviews, apparently Mick doesn't like it either. Mick actually hates that record.
What's that?
The is Satanic Majesty's.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, the one that has 2000 Man on it. They were just so high. They were taking all different kinds of shit. A potent cocktail of drugs.
Oh yeah,
whenever
definitely.
they wrote and recorded that album.
Yeah, so you missed it, Melinda. We talked about it. It sounds that box set sounds amazing. Billy got to listen to it while he was here too. The Ozzy box set.
Yeah,
it's by far the best sounding Ozzy out there. It's most high quality sound.
He gave me a little taste of that crack while I was there. I've got to get it. I have to have it.
Yeah, the one that blew me away last year was Judas Priest. Judas Priest live it's amazing that Rob Halford is still hitting those notes, and he was killing. Even my wife, who's not into metal, went with me, and she was blown away by how good they were. The only thing that disappointed me is that Deep Purple was the headliner. I think Judas Priest should have been the headliner. Yeah.
When they came through St. Louis, I don't remember who was supporting them, but they were the headliner, and I was shocked that they were playing a small theater as they were. They played a theater that probably only held about 4,000 people.
No, we saw them at an amphitheater, and it was packed. But and Deep Purple was really good too. I mean, I think what's his name is 70 years old now on vocals. Like everybody else, I can't think of his name right now, but they were great.
Not Ian Gillan, right?
Yeah, it is Gillan. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So yeah, he's 70 years old now.
They're all that age. I mean, look at Sammy Hagar. Like I said,
but the problem is, Judas Priest is such a high-powered show to go from Judas Priest to Deep Purple. It's the wrong order to see things. And the songs from the new album, I don't care what anybody says. That's some of the best shit since the early. Everybody says since Painkiller, and I know people get pissed when I say this. Painkiller is one of the best songs that Judas Priest ever released. As a whole, though, I think the new album is better than the whole album Painkiller. And
you're talking that's their best stuff since Defenders or Screaming.
Yeah, Screaming for Vengeance.
Absolutely.
And Richie, their new guitar player, he is so fucking good. And when you see him live, he carries the show. And him and Rob. And you can tell that he's writing with them now because there's definitely some new blood injected into the writing. It's sad that what's his name? Not KK Downing. Not what's the other guitar player?
Glenn.
Yeah, Glenn is. It's sad that he can't tour with him anymore. Scott was lucky when he saw him. Glenn did 3 songs with him, and then and then the other guitar player is he's he's one of their producers. And actually, I think he's out of the band now. I don't even think he's the guitar player anymore. But man,
so they don't have any original. Good. None of the original guitar players are in the lineup now. The live.
So technically, there's no original members in Judas Priest now.
Yeah. With
KK was the only original member.
Right.
Everybody else came later on. Even Rob. I can't remember the original singer's name. But they were supposed to record an album, and it got delayed. And because it got delayed, the original singer couldn't stay in the band. And thankfully, it happened because now we got Rob. But yeah, Richie Faulkner that guy is so good. He in live, he's even better. He completely turned around the sound. And I think that's why this album was so good. I was talking to somebody else about it. He was on their last album, and their last album was good, but he didn't do any of the writing on that album. He wrote a lot of the stuff on the new album, and I think that's what gave it that new edge. So.
Oh yeah, I enjoyed it. That's why whenever you said earlier that somebody was actually talking shit on that album, I was like, what? Did they
Yeah,
even
I
listen
don't.
to it?
That was my album, and a lot of people didn't want to make it album of the year. I knew a lot of people that were like, "No, that's too obvious. I can't make that my best album of the year." That's the first album in years that it sat in my CD player in my car for 3 months. So I know every word on that album,
Yeah,
and it's
when they're good, they're good.
You can't say that with all the albums and all the music that we get now. There's very few albums that I learned the lyrics to, and that's
even the newest Metallica. You know, the Hardwired. What great album, but it wasn't the album of the year. You know,
I liked it for a couple of months, and then I haven't listened to it since. Yeah, definitely Vinyl Guru. Injecting Richie Faulkner into the band totally turned him around. And I mean, the same thing happened with Megadeth. When Megadeth brought in Kiko, I can't remember the Brazilian guy's name. That with Dystopia, that just injected so much new blood into that band. And the stuff they've been doing ever since then has been, on the next level. The same thing happened with AC/DC. AC/DC has been putting out Stell album after Stell album for 2 decades. And they put out that last album, and that last album was great, and it's because they injected a new guitar player in there, unfortunately.
Yeah, and it's sad to think that through the unfortunate circumstance.
I was trying. Vinyl Guru asked if I'm trying to catch a fly because I was looking around. I was trying to find Metallica around here somewhere, and
right.
I was trying to look for it. I thought it was. I've got all the MoFi stuff right there. That's usually where my Metallica is.
Of Malcolm passing away, then they bring somebody else in. But had that not happened, we would have gotten another, because Malcolm wrote a lot of that stuff.
So favorite Sabbath era for me is 100% Ozzy. I'm a huge Ozzy fan. I had never even heard, and this is how crazy. I refused to listen to the Dio records until maybe 10 years ago. So I had heard.
So good. They're so good, though.
No, I love them. Don't get me wrong. And I actually like the guy after him too, not Gillan. The dude.
The Gillan stuff was good too, though.
That was just that one album, though.
Just that one album, but. And
I have that one right here too, but no, the era after that, I really like that era too. Eternal Idol, but yeah, I'll always be a Sabbath. Ozzy Sabbath. Those are my favorite.
I'm an Ozzy era Sabbath for me as well. But that Dio stuff, the Ronnie James stuff is so good.
I do like it.
Heaven and Hell. Even when he came back with Dehumanizer.
Dehumanizer is my favorite of the Dio era albums. I love that album. Every song on there is phenomenal. I like all the stuff and I love the Heaven and Hell stuff. That they did after the fact, and there's not a Black Sabbath era that I don't like. The only one I haven't heard is Tear. I've never heard that album, so I don't know about that
one. That's a weird one. Because I have Headless Cross. Was Gillan on Headless Cross?
No, Gillan was only on the one with the baby on the cover.
Yeah, there you go. So who is the singer that we're not thinking of?
I can tell you any other time. That's why I was looking for the. I usually have all those deluxe editions here, and I can't think of who it was. But
yeah, I'm drawing a blank too.
But my favorite from that period is, I don't know, man. I could even pick a favorite of the Paranoid is probably my favorite of
Master of Reality.
But my favorite song from that era is Children of the Grave.
Oh, yeah.
I've always loved that song. And man, yeah, that's definitely my favorite. But I love everything. Tony Martin, God damn it. I don't know why.
God damn it.
So and Tony Martin was in the band, and then he kind of did a deal. He was in the band, and then he was kicked out, and then he was brought back in. Yeah, I really like Tony Martin though. And there's a lot of people that don't, but I thought Eternal Idol was great. Was he on
I think he was on. He was either on Headless Cross or Tear. And Gillan.
Yeah, and I haven't heard Tear. I've got Headless Cross. He was on another one too. Is it Forbidden? Is that that last one that they did as Black Sabbath?
I don't know.
I think it's Forbidden, but and, but though, yeah, Ozzy. Let's see, man, favorite debut album. I don't know.
Favorite debut album of all time?
Yeah.
So my favorite, golly, man, that's tough. Because I'd have to break it down into.
Yeah, Melinda says Boston. That's a great
country,
debut.
Country, hard rock, and then heavy metal. My hard rock, the first thing that came to mind was Van Halen, self-titled. I mean, but Boston is killer. I can't believe Melinda, of all people, didn't say Van Halen.
Yeah, Van Halen is. I think that their debut is definitely their best album.
When it comes to country, and I know I'm super biased on this, Garth Brooks, man.
Yeah, that's an amazing album.
It's wow. Yeah. It's killer.
Yeah, see, Jimi Hendrix Experience. I love his debut, but Axis Bold as Love has always been my favorite Hendrix album. It's been
a go-to. And you're
Jimmy Metallica as much as I like the Metallica debut. Ride the Lightning is my favorite Metallica album.
Yeah.
Although I love the Megadeth debut. Rust in Peace is by far my favorite.
My favorite metal would probably be Danzig 1.
Yeah, dude, that's a great one. Yeah, that's a great choice.
Yeah.
I didn't even think about that one. That's a
Come on, give us your country, give us your rock, give us your metal debut.
I don't know. That's the problem. A lot of my favorite albums are not their first out. Like my favorite Garth Brooks is one, but like my favorite, the Dwight Yoakam debut is my favorite Dwight Yoakam album. But like George Strait, Pure Country is my favorite George Strait album. That was 8 albums in, so it's hard, man. Electric Ladyland is phenomenal. Any of the Jimi Hendrix stuff, though. I love Band of Gypsies too.
What about metal, though? Since you've got all this.
That's what I'm saying. I'm thinking in my head. I want to say
metal knowledge, man. I mean,
like when you think about
I do the Danzig out there, which I don't think is it's a little bit vanilla, but it's so great.
But I mean, I'm thinking a lot of people would say Pantera, but their first album was 4 albums earlier. You know what I mean?
Yeah, you can't. Cowboys and Bells not their debut.
Judas Priest is probably my favorite band of all time. Their debut is not although I love their debut. Rock-a-Rolla is not my favorite album from them.
Right.
That's a problem I have with a lot of the bands.
Asking the tough questions, man.
Yeah.
Vinyl Guru asking the tough questions.
Yeah. And Vinyl Guru, I love Rock-a-Rolla. I love that album. However,
or as Peaches calls it, Rock-a-Rolla Cola.
Yeah, but that's definitely not my favorite album from them, though. I lost that. Where'd it go? I don't know. I don't know if I can give a legit answer on that one. Now, for hip hop, I can say my favorite is the first Wu-Tang album or the first Outkast album.
Wow.
I like their debuts are my favorites.
See, mine would be Easy Does It, man.
Easy Does It was good.
It was good.
That was a good debut.
Easy Does It.
That was a good debut.
Was great, dude.
I don't think that's as good as the Outkast debut, though, was.
Yeah, I mean, apples and oranges.
Yeah. Oh, there you go, Vinyl Guru. Nas, Illmatic is one of the best debut albums of all time. He's been chasing that album ever since. Notorious B.I.G.'s debut too.
This drink because I've done emptied this one. I have to keep sipping on this one. I didn't know we were going to go 2 hours and 45 minutes.
That's cool.
Or I would have brought down a 6-pack.
Yeah, and you guys are coming up with better ideas than I am, man. Yeah, the Doors. I just talked about the Doors, but even that's not my favorite Doors album. My favorite Doors album is the one with People Are Strange, which is their second album. Yeah, I think that's their second album.
Strange Days, right?
Yeah. Let's see what else. Hey, I can't even. Let's see. I lost track of the comments now. There were some more questions and stuff in there. You guys are typing too fast for me. But Melinda had a great one, though, Boston, man. And that's another band that's been chasing their debut ever since. Now, granted, they've only had, 3 albums in 40 years? But
yeah. What was their second one? Was it More Than a Feeling, or was that no? What was their second album called?
I don't even remember.
But that was a great album.
I
The
just
third
had
one. What's that?
I just had one in my head and I lost it.
Don't Look Back. Don't Look
that?
Back was, yeah.
The first ZZ Top album is probably my favorite ZZ Top album.
There you go.
I'm trying to think of some other ones like that. It's just so much stuff out there, man.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Chicago, yeah, their first album is probably the best thing that they ever released. 30 albums in. Let's see. Yeah, Strange Days. Yeah, I mean that's my favorite album from them by far. Forbidden. Yeah, the Forbidden debut. Actually, Sanctuary. The Sanctuary debut.
Yeah.
Is one of the best metal debuts that gets no credit for how good it was. That's another great one. So I think we're at 2:45. I think it's about time to wrap this bad boy up.
2:45. Wrap it up, man. This was fun. This was great.
Yeah,
Thanks for inviting me, and hopefully we can make these happen. Maybe we'll get a few of the guys in the
yeah, I wouldn't mind. It'd be cool to get Mitch in here and Brandon and hey, Vinyl Guru, you're making a big splash. It'd be cool to get you get a little mixed bag of stuff going too. So
and I have to give a shout out to Steve for turning me on to Vinyl Guru's channel. You know, you're like, hey, what within the first couple days of her getting on, because I'm really terrible about not actively seeking out new channels and new content. And Steve was like, dude, you've got to check out Vinyl Guru.
Yeah,
she's funny, she's witty, she's knowledgeable. You know?
I don't think I said all that stuff.
Well, I kind of talk it up a little bit, but yeah,
funny.
You made it worthwhile. I had to go check her out, and I'm so glad I did. I enjoyed the channel.
Yeah, so those of you guys that aren't subscribed to Vinyl Guru, make sure you jump on her channel. That's it though, guys. Like I said, we'll try to get a hold of a couple of you and get a few more of these. Try to do these regularly, at least while this quarantine is going on. Maybe we'll do a Sunday thing or something. We'll talk about it. But all right, guys, I'm going to end it now. So take care.
Thanks. See you guys.